Chapter 11-13. Li Xingsan. He looked at Bai Qingxing and sneered. Before, you didn't want to be a man or a dog, but now you've gone from bad to worse. You've become a mad dog. When are you going to stop embarrassing yourself? Li Xingsan, why are you pretending? Bai Qingxing sneered. The wild dog is very amazing. It can suppress the demon lord and the East continent. Its thunder tribulation can be 2 levels higher than its realm. If such a wild dog is not killed, it will bite many people to death when it grows up. I, Bai Qingxing, want to kill the wild dog without caring about my reputation or being despised by others. But what about you? You think you're so noble and virtuous? You think some wild dog isn't worth your time? You think you're just going to stand by and watch? I, Northstar, am willing to give up my reputation to nip everything in the bud and save the East continent from a calamity. And here you are, mocking me. Bai Qingxing suddenly pointed at Li Xingsan. Li Xingsan, what are you up to? Don't tell me you're a spy for the wild dogs. Star Polaris was trying to save himself. He realized that what he had done was foolish, but there was no turning back. He could only make the best of his mistake. In fact, he was even putting Wild Dog, whom he disdained, on a pedestal. Although it was extremely humiliating, it was very useful. The audience started to discuss it again, and it was noisy. Bai Qingxing is right. A wild dog like Eastern Wilderness 002 is so amazing. What about Eastern Wilderness 007? Isn't it even more terrifying? If they were to grow up, they would be a great disaster. Eastern Wilderness 001, Eastern Wilderness 003, and Eastern Wilderness 004 are equally famous as Eastern Wilderness 002 on the Divine Monument. I'm afraid these 3 people are definitely not inferior to Eastern Wilderness 002. Bai Qingxing's ranking on the Divine Monument is not as good as Wild Dog's. At least he knows his place. Although this method is despicable, it's still a good idea. On the other hand, Li Xingsan is a bit shameless. If he thinks he's better than the wild dog, then he should go and take the wild dog's head back for everyone to see. You're right. Why don't you admit it and pretend to be virtuous? Not only did he not make a move, but he even misled us. Isn't this a disaster for the East continent? Li Xingsan was at a loss for words. Looking at Li Xingsan's deflated expression, Bai Qingxing felt extremely pleased with himself. He had made a mistake this time. Awesome! In this way, his reputation could be restored. Chu Yang, who was off the field, had originally hoped that Li Xingsan's arrogance could save the 2 people on the field, but now it seemed that there was no hope. Bai Qingxing, I'll go and take the wild dog's head back. Li Xingsan sneered and said, at that time, you'd better not regret praising the wild dog so highly. Li Xingsan, did I mean to stop you? Bai Qingxing sneered and said, it's best if you can kill the wild dog. I, Bai Qingxing, will have no complaints even if you say I'm inferior. However, I'll give you a piece of advice. Don't underestimate the wild dog. Otherwise, before you can cut off the wild dog's head, the wild dog will cut off the head and show it off. You'll lose the face of the East continent. Humph, Bai Qingxing, you can wait and see. Li Xingsan left angrily after saying this. Bai Qingxing looked at Li Xingsan's back and his eyes turned cold. He defended himself again and said, I, Bai Qingxing, am not worrying for nothing, and I'm not inferior. If I don't get rid of the danger, I'll be a real fool. As he said this, he strode over and took the executioner's machete. He chopped it down and Wang Xinghuang's head fell to the ground. It rolled for a while before it stopped. Blood spurted out from the neck and dyed the sky and the ground red. Chu Yang felt as if his entire body was about to explode. His fingernails dug into his palms. He bit his lips so hard that the corners of his eyes were about to split open. This scene was like a knife that was carved into his mind. He would never forget this scene. Father! The child's cry was even more heart-wrenching. Chu Yang suddenly felt that the blood that was still spurting out was all splattered on his face. His whole body was covered in blood. Wild dog, do you see? Today I'll kill 1 dog. Tomorrow I'll kill 10 dogs. The day after tomorrow I'll kill hundreds, thousands, and tens of thousands of dogs. Bei Chengxing roared at the crowd. Then he grabbed the child's hair and lifted him up. The machete fell on the child's neck. He grinned and said, "Wild dog, tomorrow at this time, if you don't come, this cute child's head will fall to the ground like his father's." Fuck #yen%%. Chu Yang didn't know if his choice was right. Rationally speaking, he didn't seem to be wrong. But was he really not wrong? He didn't know. He had never thought that he would encounter such a thing in his life. He was caught off guard and didn't have time to react. God didn't give him much time to think. Things happened just like that. It was irreversible. Tomorrow? Chapter 11:14. Bei Chengxing was very happy after killing Wang Xinghuang. He hung the child up and looked at Wang Xinghuang's head. Although the head looked ferocious and bloody, and there was even unwillingness and anger in its eyes, he was inexplicably fond of such a head. Because, compared to Li Xingsan, he was already inferior to Dogfart. He was completely trampled under Li Xingsan's foot, and his reputation was completely lost. It was just that the heavens clearly doted on him. Today, with such a turn of events, not only did he make Li Xingsan suffer, he even trampled on Li Xingsan. Bei Chengxing was inferior to Li Xingsan. This saying could be stopped abruptly. Therefore, how could he not be happy? If everything went well, he would still be able to gain a good reputation. Therefore, even if he was unhappy about praising Wild Dog, he didn't care now. The more Bei Chengxing thought about it, the happier he was. He couldn't help but laugh. He couldn't stop laughing, as if there was nothing better than this. Wild Dog must have seen that scene just now. He must be angry and must improve his strength quickly. In this way, he will pass the tribulation soon. As he spoke, Bei Chengxing took out a bead. This bead was like an extremely small star. It emitted dazzling starlight, and there was a formation inside it, the Deception Formation. The Deception Formation's function was very simple. It deceived the heavens to avoid the thunder tribulation. For example, when one's realm reached a certain level, he could trigger the thunder tribulation, but he wasn't ready or didn't want to break through the realm. The Deception Formation was useful. It could deceive the heavens and prevent the thunder tribulation from coming. In order to move better, most people would place the Deception Formation in their treasured weapons. This was just like the bead in Bei Chengxing's hand. The heaven-deceiving array had another function, which was to avoid being involved in other people's thunder tribulations when watching them. Simply put, Bei Chengxing had this bead in his hand, so it was impossible for Chu Yang to involve him in the thunder tribulations. As long as that Wild Dog dares to go through another tribulation, I will be able to enter his tribulation. It's a pity that I still can't attack him when he's going through the tribulation. Otherwise, I will still be drawn into the tribulation. This was the disadvantage of the heaven-deceiving formation. Although it could deceive the heavens, it had to hide one's aura and not attack. Unless the level of the heaven-deceiving formation was extremely high. Bei Chengxing finally laughed contemptuously. That's enough. I can enter the Wild Dog's thunder tribulation and keep an eye on him so that he can't escape. The Wild Dog will definitely die. However, his smile suddenly disappeared. Since he had such an idea, he guessed that Li Xingsan also had the same idea. If Li Xingsan was one step ahead of him, all his previous efforts would be wasted. I have to take the Wild Dog's head before Li Xingsan. Bei Chengxing frowned. This was very troublesome. He immediately sent people out to cover the entire Seven Wheels demonic realm. As long as Wild Dog made the slightest movement, he would be able to detect it immediately. Rumble. After an unknown amount of time, rumbling thunder came from the fifth wheel of the Seven Wheels demonic realm, from the direction of the central wheel. When Bei Chengxing heard the thunder, his expression suddenly changed. Damn it, are they all useless? Why didn't anyone send any news back when the thunder sounded? However, he immediately understood. The wild dog must be very cautious and wouldn't expose himself so easily before breaking through to the next realm. In his opinion, the news would definitely be sent back immediately. However, he couldn't wait any longer. He brought the people around him and rushed to the fifth wheel. In the fifth wheel, not far from where Chu Yang was going through his tribulation, Bei Chengxing and the others had just rushed over. Before they could see clearly what was in front of them, they could already smell the thick smell of blood. When they got closer, their pupils suddenly shrank. Chapter 11:15. Jingguan. Bei Chengxing looked at the human heads. Most of them belonged to the disciples of the Star Academy that he had sent out. Now they were piled up like bricks. Many of them were filled with fear and disbelief before they died. This was Chu Yang's response to Bei Chengxing. He had used human heads and the most bloody scene to give the most unyielding response. He had shown it to Bei Chengxing and to everyone in the East Continent. The sound of thunder had not only attracted Bei Chengxing, but it had also attracted many people from the East Continent who wanted to kill Chu Yang. At this moment, they were all looking at this scene in horror. Their expressions changed drastically. Chu Yang's message was too strong. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a blood for blood. If you want to be ruthless, I can be more ruthless than you. If you want to be despicable, I can be more despicable than you. Wild dog, I'll definitely kill you. Bei Chengxing's face was burning. It was as if he had been slapped by Chu Yang. Now, his ears were ringing and his head was hurting. Everyone has seen it. Wild dog is a beast. If we don't get rid of such a mad dog, it will be a disaster for the East Continent. Bei Chengxing did not forget to give a passionate speech, but very few people responded. Most of the people who had died were from the Star Academy. If Bei Chengxing had not used such despicable methods, things would not have turned out this way. Rumble! The sound of thunder suddenly approached. It shocked everyone in the East Continent, causing them to scatter and flee for their lives. At this moment, the wild dog would definitely not show mercy when killing people. They frantically fled for a while and watched from afar. They saw Chu Yang suddenly stop after flying over. Then, he slowly closed in on Bei Chengxing. Thump, thump, tap. Although the thunder was fierce and his footsteps were weak and almost inaudible, the people of the East Continent could hear them very clearly. They could see that with every step Chu Yang took, the void was like a water surface, rippling with circles of ripples. Bei Chengxing, do you know what that is? Chu Yang asked. He didn't need to point. Everyone knew what he was talking about. Jingguan, do you want me to explain it to you? Chu Yang's voice was as cold as ice, falling into everyone's ears. In an instant, everyone felt a chill from head to toe. Angry, really angry. Wild Dog was really furious. Everyone in the East Continent was aware of this. Bei Chengxing's expression was extremely ugly, but it soon became ferocious. He laughed sinisterly and said, "Wild Dog, I promise that you will regret it and pay 100 times the price for what you have done. I will tear you into 1,000 pieces to vent the hatred in my heart. 100 times the price. That's what I want to say to a maggot like you." Even if he killed these people, Chu Yang didn't feel guilty at all. If possible, he didn't want to stain his hands with blood. But it was not up to him. It was like this in the Eastern Wilderness, and it was also like this in the East Continent. At this time, he didn't have the mentality of treading on thin ice. Only anger burned in his heart. In the Eastern Wilderness, he also felt powerless, incompetent, and cowardly, but it was far less intense than in the East Continent. Not long ago, the bloody scene was even clearer in his mind now. He absolutely didn't want to experience that feeling of helplessness again when he saw others beheaded because of his own generation. Now, he had experienced it personally. What should he do? There were too many beautiful things to do in life. However, the people on the opposite side only recognized fists, swords, spears, and power. So, since you want to kill, then I'll kill for you. You want to die, then I'll kill you. It's either you die or I die. No, I was wrong. It's 1,000 times the price. Chu Yang said incomparably coldly. Bei Qinxing, do you care about their lives? Is this interesting? Will the people in the East Continent curse you for showing off? Chapter 11:16. You, Starry Polaris's face twitched with anger. His whole body trembled. Humph! Chu Yang sneered. You're angry, aren't you? You can get angry too? You have a butcher's knife, but do you think I don't have one? If you don't treat the Eastern Wilderness as humans, do you think I'll treat the East Continent as humans? You killed one person from the Eastern Wilderness, and I killed 1,000 people from the East Continent. You killed 10 people from the Eastern Wilderness, and I killed 10,000 people from the East Continent. You killed 100 people from the Eastern Wilderness, and I killed 10 million people from the East Continent. I'll pay you back 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times. I'll kill until the East Continent trembles in fear, until there's no one left in the East Continent. He roared, venting his anger. He let out his loudest voice, accompanied by rolling thunder. His anger was like the wrath of the heavens, and many people from the East Continent trembled in fear. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't believe that they had such ability. However, this person was Eastern Wilderness 002, the person who suppressed the Demon Lord and countless prodigies from the East Continent on the Divine Monument. If someone like him said it, there was almost nothing he couldn't do. The bloody scene before them was a fact. Although the wild dog was weak, it had killed so many people from the Star Do Academy and the East Continent in a short time. Wild dog, Bei Qinxing roared, you're boasting shamelessly. Do you have the ability to kill everyone from the East Continent? Everything else aside, you're going to die here today. You're going to die here today. You can keep those words to yourself. Chu Yang sneered. I didn't expect you to be so stupid. You dare to appear when I'm going through my tribulation. I'll go find some companions for you first. Otherwise, no one will criticize and humiliate you along the way. Whoosh! How dare you! As Star North Star roared, Chu Yang unleashed his path to the heavens. His body disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was in the midst of the East Continent's crowds. He kept moving. Rumble! Everyone from the East Continent was immediately swept into Chu Yang's lightning tribulation. It's your turn, two-legged maggot. Chu Yang flew back at full speed towards Bei Qinxing, bringing with him the thunder punishment. Before it even arrived, the dazzling light of the lightning caused Star Polaris's eyes to shine with starlight. Damn it! Bei Qinxing couldn't wait to have sex with Chu Yang, but he was incomparably afraid. Chu Yang's lightning tribulation was 2 realms higher than his own. If he were to be sucked into it with his soul amalgamation realm cultivation, he would have to face the Nirvana realm's lightning tribulation. Chu Yang was able to withstand the lightning punishment that was 2 realms higher than his, and Bei Qinxing was also confident that he could do the same. However, even if he didn't die, he would still lose a layer of skin. He didn't want to take the risk and immediately dodged. However, the people from the Star Battle Academy behind him were in trouble. He didn't have any treasures on him that could help him avoid the tribulation lightning. Xingzi! They panicked and called out to Bei Qinxing, causing Bei Qinxing's face to turn gloomy. Although he had the protection of a treasure on him and could avoid the lightning punishment, he couldn't attack Chu Yang. He was so frustrated that he almost died. He clenched his teeth, but he could only watch as they struggled and howled miserably in the lightning punishment. He shouldn't have come. No, he shouldn't have brought them here. How surprising! You can actually avoid the lightning punishment. Chu Yang was a little surprised, but he sneered even more. Wild dog, once the lightning punishment is over, I'll kill you. Seeing Bei Chenxing's ferocious expression, Chu Yang's expression turned even colder. Maggot, do you still have the chance? I didn't expect you to be so stupid to have such an idea. Don't you know that I have the space-time ability? Swish. Bei Chenxing's expression changed drastically. Only now did he realize that he was in trouble. He was really blinded. He actually forgot the most important thing. If Wild Dog didn't have the space-time ability, he would have died long ago. He definitely couldn't shake off Chu Yang. He didn't want to fight with Chu Yang, but he had no choice. It wasn't up to him. Rumble. The deafening sound of thunder closed in. Bei Chenxing was about to fight with all his might when he suddenly realized that Chu Yang had changed directions. He disappeared with a whoosh, and only his cold voice resounded. Maggot, you're very lucky. A huge wave of maggots is coming. However, this is also good. Death isn't that scary. Waiting for death, that anxiety, that fear, and that torment are even scarier than death. Death before death might be the scariest thing for a death row prisoner, but waiting for death was definitely the most torturous. After Bei Chenxing disappeared, he immediately sensed Li Xingsan and the others rushing over. His face immediately burned. Chapter 11:17. Whoosh. In the blink of an eye, Li Xingsan and the others arrived. Obviously, like Bei Chenxing, they all had precious weapons that could avoid the lightning punishment because of Chu Yang. Therefore, they were not very worried about being involved in Chu Yang's lightning punishment. This was also the reason why Chu Yang left temporarily. Bei Chenxing had something that could avoid the lightning punishment, so the others should have it too. Perhaps their precious weapons would even allow them to attack him without incurring the lightning punishment. Under uncertain circumstances, Chu Yang did not choose to take the risk. Because he was a hunter and did not need to take risks, and this was just the beginning. Many people came. In addition to Li Xingsan, there was also Feng Polong from the Sky Sword Academy, Su Yiling from the Divine Firmament Academy, and even Mo Longzi from the Myriad Demons sect. The others were not so bad, but Mo Longzi was comparable to the Dean of the 6 Great Academies. Chu Yang was definitely not his match. They did not chase after Chu Yang. Although they had precious weapons to protect them and prevent them from being involved in Chu Yang's lightning punishment, they could not attack Chu Yang. In addition, Chu Yang had the space-time ability. Even if the lightning punishment ended, it would be too difficult for them to chase after him. This was useless. Unless someone at the level of Mo Longzi made a move. However, upon seeing Jingguan, Mo Longzi merely gave a sneer of ridicule before leaving. He came to laugh at the 6 Great Academies, not to kill Chu Yang. Moreover, he was also afraid that he would be involved in Chu Yang's lightning punishment. His lightning punishment was terrifying. It was not something that Bei Chenxing and the others could compare to. Why should he take the risk? Bei Chenxing, aren't you very talkative? Now continue. Li Xingsan saw the scene in front of him and immediately sneered. Li Xingsan. Bei Chenxing could only grit his teeth. Am I wrong? Li Xingsan pointed at Jingguan and continued to provoke Bei Chenxing. A wild dog is a real mad dog. Even if you learn to be a mad dog, you are still not a real mad dog. You are far inferior to him. You're really a disgrace to the East Continent. You're really a disgrace to us. Feng Polong and the beautiful Su Yiling were also looking at Jingguan at this moment. The bloody scene shocked them as well. Immediately, Feng Polong raised his eyebrows. I wouldn't use such a method to deal with a wild dog. I can't afford to lose face like this. Shwa. With that, he flew away. I also don't want the ordinary disciples of the Divine Firmament Academy to become ghosts under the blade. I won't get involved in this battle. Su Yiling frowned and left. Li Xingsan also wanted to leave, but he was already involved. At this moment, his face was dark. Bei Chenxing had become a joke, and he probably couldn't escape. He also had no interest in humiliating Bei Chenxing. He said darkly, Bei Chenxing, we'll settle our grudges later. If we don't do it well this time, the two of us and our two academies will be humiliated and become the laughingstock of the East Continent. After a pause, he continued, use the strength of our two academies to drive everyone from the Seven Wheels demon realm to the second wheel. Then use that little wild dog to provoke the wild dog. If he doesn't dare to fight with you and me, then kill the little wild dog directly. This was a way. In this way, the wild dog wouldn't have the chance to kill the two academies and the people of the East Continent. After hearing this, Bei Chenxing felt that there was a gap between him and Li Xingsan, at least in terms of temperament. In addition, we have to seal all the exits of the Seven Wheels demon realm. Li Xingsan said again. There was no other way. The arrow was knocked and had to be released. Bei Chenxing, that idiot, had ruined everything. Okay. Bei Chenxing nodded and agreed with Li Xingsan's idea. Then the two of them started to act. Soon, Chu Yang found something strange. He changed his appearance. When he reappeared, he didn't see anyone, but he immediately knew what he needed to know. Chapter 11:18. Rumble. In an instant, Chu Yang went berserk and crazily bombarded everything around him to vent his anger. The earth shook violently. Just as he calmed down, the bloody scene of Wang Xinghuang's head being chopped off immediately appeared in his mind. The child's terrified face and heart-wrenching cries appeared as well. This scene kept replaying in his mind. He couldn't help but imagine the scene of the child's head being chopped off. After a loud explosion, Chu Yang gritted his teeth and said, "This can't happen again. Once was enough." He didn't want it to happen a second time. The first time, he could say that he was caught off guard. However, he couldn't find an excuse for the second time. This wasn't a rational thing to do. If he went, he would probably die. The 6 great academies' hall masters should be gathered in the second round. If he went, it would be the same as sending a sheep into a tiger's den. However, there were many things that couldn't be done based on gains and losses. Even if it was stupid, he still had to do it. He could kill millions of people in the East Continent, but he wouldn't be able to save the child's life. It was just like how he couldn't save Wang Xinghuang's life even if he built the Imperial Capital Temple. It was impossible for him to slaughter ordinary people in the East Continent out of anger and become a murderous demon, an executioner. There wasn't much use in doing so. The people in the 6 great academies didn't care about the lives of these people. Therefore, he could only lower himself. There were things that a man should do and things that he shouldn't do. He couldn't not do what he should do just because he cherished his life, even if he might not be able to save the child. He knew that others might say that he was stupid, but it didn't matter. This was his personal opinion and actions. There was no need for others to preach to him. Chu Yang stood in place and pondered for a long time. Finally, he angrily said, "Even if I'm going to die, I'll bite off a piece of your flesh." After coming up with a plan, he headed straight for the Supreme Demon Ancestor's 7th wheel, the hero's soul wheel. Rumble. Without a single person, Chu Yang didn't hesitate and immediately summoned the hero's soul. He attracted the hero's soul from the 2 supreme figures and formed the divine and demon souls. When the hero's soul created the world, thunder immediately descended. Just like before, Chu Yang's dragon's power increased by another 1,000 dragon's power and reached the 5th level of the spirit realm. His physical body had also increased by another level, reaching 5,200 dragon's power. If it was the 9th revolution, it would be able to erupt with 47,000 dragon power. With this strength, he could easily kill a 4th-level soul amalgamation realm cultivator, but this was far from enough. Even though Bei Chenxing and Li Xingsan were only at the soul fusion realm, one of them was a supreme realm practitioner while the other was a divine arts practitioner, not to mention the 6 bastards from the 6 great academies. Buzz buzz buzz. The aura, strength, central soul, essence soul, and heroic soul suddenly shook. The world formed by the 5 of them connected into a line, forming the shape of 5 pearls. They pointed directly at the spiritual intelligence soul and the heavenly rush soul, causing the two to appear. Immediately, Chu Yang's entire body began to vibrate at a certain frequency. In the end, his body began to resonate, and not long after, his body began to crack. At the same time, the entire 7-wheeled demonic domain was projected into his mind. His perception of the 7-wheeled demonic domain became incomparably clear. It was as if the 7-wheeled demonic domain was his domain. Chu Yang could clearly see the scene within the Supreme Demon Ancestor's spiritual intelligence wheel. The scene was divided into 2 parts. On one side, Bai Qianxing and Li Xingsan were the leaders. They had set up an arena and placed the child on the edge. On the other side, the 6 hall masters of the 6 great academies were trying their best to refine a demonic bell. Chapter 11:19. Is this the devil's treasure they were talking about? This should be the Supreme Demon Venerable's treasure. At this moment, Chu Yang naturally understood what had happened. Because he had collected the 5 souls of the 2 supreme figures, he had resonated with the Supreme Demon Venerable's corpse. The Supreme Demon Venerable's corpse was like a huge house. For the 2 supreme figures, this was their home. Chu Yang had collected the 5 souls, so he could be considered the owner of this big house. Haha, good. Although Chu Yang's body had many cracks and was bleeding profusely, he laughed out loud at this time. Because of this, he had gained another great trump card. Previously, he could only rely on the lightning punishment, but now, he might be able to kill everyone from the 6 great academies here. The demonic bell is the Supreme Demon Venerable's treasure. It must be extremely amazing. This is the key. Chu Yang maintained this frequency and resonated with the Supreme Demon Venerable. The cracks on his body became more and more severe, but he didn't care at all. He carefully sensed the demonic bell. At this moment, he had a faint connection with the demonic bell, and this connection was constantly strengthening. Soon, he saw the 2 origin forces entangled in it. One was light and the other was darkness. The demonic bell's consciousness had been completely destroyed. It was now in chaos. The Supreme Demon Venerable's opponent, that god, has already destroyed the demonic bell. He instantly understood that this was inevitable. If the Supreme Demon Venerable's treasure was intact, that god couldn't have seized the Supreme Demon Venerable's body. In this way, he could only dream of controlling the demonic bell to destroy the 6 great academies because he alone couldn't activate the demonic bell. If the 6 great academies' hall masters couldn't activate it, it was even more impossible for Chu Yang. This was something he had found with great difficulty. Therefore, he didn't give up and tried his best to analyze the demonic bell. He himself, the godly demon martial spirit, and the all-encompassing armillary sphere that he hadn't used for a long time were all activated to the extreme. Because of the 2 supreme essences of the 5 souls, Chu Yang felt a sense of familiarity with the devilish bell. In fact, when the hazy and primal chaos consciousness sensed him, it even let out clear sounds of joy. It began to vibrate, and the bell tolled, sending the 6 Deen flying backward. The 6 great courtyard masters were incomparably shocked, but they had no idea what was going on. The devil bell welcomed Chu Yang with open arms. Therefore, he could see everything inside Chu Yang. Among them, there was a vast and extremely complicated array. Even though he was a 6th grade array master, he was still unable to see the entire array in its entirety. It was as if he was reading a heavenly book. Chu Yang tried his best to comprehend the array. When his body cracked to the point where he could no longer endure it, he stopped and healed his injuries before continuing. After repeating this process, he finally understood the entire formation. The formation was severely damaged, but it was repairing itself on its own. After a long period of time, the demonic bell had more or less recovered. That was why the demonic bell gave birth to a chaotic consciousness. If this continued, the demonic bell would eventually give birth to a new consciousness. However, the formation inside the demonic bell had some major parts missing. Those parts couldn't be repaired automatically. That was why the birth of a new consciousness was so slow. The array flags are the most important. The array flags are the center of the formation. As long as I control the array flags, I should be able to activate the demonic bell. Chu Yang finally found the key point. However, when he saw that the array flags were severely damaged, his heart couldn't help but sink again. According to the demonic bell formation, there should be a set of array flags in the formation. There were a total of 3,000 array flags, representing 3,000 worlds and 3,000 great Dao. However, at least 2,000 array flags were missing from the demonic bell. The most important thing was the center of the formation, which was completely destroyed. The destroyed part could be repaired, but how could it be repaired without an array flag? Buzz! Chu Yang sensed these array flags. Suddenly, there was a buzzing in his mind. He seemed to have seen array flags somewhere before. He began to think hard. Then, he suddenly trembled and cried out, "The two devils of the Bone Devil sect, Lan Qingyue and Huang Qingtian." When Chu Yang first entered the Seven Wheels demon domain, he was ambushed by a devil. However, he managed to escape. In the end, he hid in the dark and wanted to take advantage of the situation. However, the two devils didn't make a move in the end. The blood banner in the hand of the devil named Lan Qingyue was the array flag. Swish! Immediately, he wanted to seize the array flag. If he could get this array flag, he might be able to activate the demonic bell. Chapter 11:20. Chu Yang brought the parrot and was about to leave the Seven Wheels demon domain. However, he realized that the entrance had been blocked by the people from the 6 great academies. Moreover, the people who were responsible for blocking the exit were at least Nirvana realm experts. They had also set up layers of arrays. It was so tight that there was no way to escape. Obviously, they were targeting Chu Yang's path to heaven. The Supreme Demon Ancestor's mouth and nose were all entrances and exits. Therefore, they were definitely blocked. If I hadn't broken through to the spirit realm and formed a connection with the heavens and the earth, I would have definitely triggered the array even if I wasn't detected by their divine sense. Others would form a divine bridge when they were at the spirit stage, but Chu Yang's was a door. His 3 portals were all space-time portals. They could be used as 3 space-time teleportation points. Together with the path to heaven, he could teleport between the 3 portals. Chu Yang could now truly travel through space-time and teleport short distances. With a thought, Chu Yang's heaven's portal entered the void and appeared outside the Seven Wheels demon domain. After that, the Hell's portal appeared. He used the path to heaven and teleported out of the Seven Wheels demon domain. The Nirvana realm experts who blocked the entrance didn't notice him at all. As soon as he left the Seven Wheels demon domain, Chu Yang appeared at the place where he was ambushed by the 2 demons. His figure suddenly stopped as a feeling of parting emerged in his heart. It was the feeling of leaving his hometown and his friend. The Seven Wheels demon domain was now his home. The remaining 2 supreme existences, Tianchong and Linghui, were his friends and family. What a strange feeling! I was both a god and a demon in the Seven Wheels demon domain. However, after coming out, I feel like I've entered the mortal world. I can't adapt to it. At this moment, a demonic cloud floated over. In an instant, an extremely evil and powerful force quickly attacked him. It was extremely violent and filled with killing and madness. It suddenly made him feel uncomfortable. This is demonic energy. However, it's not the demonic energy of the Supreme Demon Ancestor. It's an extremely lowly demonic energy. This was the reason why he felt uncomfortable. It was like a rich family who was used to living in luxury and couldn't adapt to poverty. The demonic chi just now should be the demonic chi left behind by the ancient demonic sect. It was attached to the supreme demonic lord. Not only did the demonic chi not weaken after so many years, it became stronger and stronger. The demonic clouds engulfed Chu Yang, but the moment the demonic chi came into contact with Chu Yang, the wild and tyrannical demonic chi instantly became as obedient as a dog. Like a dog's tongue, it licked Chu Yang's hand. When he sensed the divine aura in Chu Yang's body, it seemed to be trembling even more. This is also a demon? Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh. How could a demon fear a god? If it was the real devil chi, it should be majestically challenging the gods, the heavenly axiom, and the most powerful and oppressive thing in the world. It was definitely filled with unyieldingness, iron-bloodedness, the flames of war, and the killing intent that was like a blade. It was like the demonic chi of the supreme demon ancestor. It was lawless, ignoring all reason, all laws, all daos, and all shackles in the world. It was unrestrained. It was evil, tyrannical, bloodthirsty, and committed all kinds of evil. It had no humanity at all. It was just a killing and fighting machine. It was completely dominated by killing and driven by all kinds of negative emotions. In order to pursue power and achieve its goal, it could do anything and everything. Such a demon was at best the lowest level of demon. Chapter 11:21. A god was also a demon. A supreme demon. Chu Yang had comprehended the Tao of demons, but he also comprehended the Tao of gods. A god was the creator, the keeper of order, the guardian, and the noble. They were high above. Above all rules, a person could cultivate to perfection and become a god. However, this was only an ordinary god. The highest god was a demon. They did not follow any rules and ignored everything. They were free and unfettered. The demonic nature and divine nature bloomed within Chu Yang's body and intertwined with each other. Faintly, Chu Yang's body changed again. There was no longer a distinction between god and demon. It was as if he had returned to Tai Chi, chaos, and infinity. His entire person was one step closer to merging with the heavens and earth. Buzz. With a thought, the space-time around him was completely sealed. Controlling the heavens and earth was an ability that could only be grasped by a soul fusion stage after obtaining the recognition of the heavens and earth. However, Chu Yang had already grasped it at the spirit stage. Therefore, he wasn't surprised at all. Ignoring his comprehension as a god and demon, just his status as a level 6 array master meant that his comprehension of the heavens and earth wasn't inferior to any soul fusion stage. It was natural for him to grasp such an ability. In this place, only I am a true god and a true demon. No one else is. I am the only god and the only demon. At this moment, Chu Yang was filled with disdain towards the East Continent's ancient demon sect. What demon sect? It's just a low-level demon. A bunch of beasts. A gathering place for murderous demons. You can't even be considered as a lunatic. The ancient demon sect is just a low-level demon. A gathering place for murderous demons? You can't even be considered as a lunatic. Suddenly, a mocking voice rang out. When Chu Yang looked towards the source of the voice, he couldn't help but reveal a joyous expression. Demon Huang Qingtian. A large man with a curly beard could be seen flying over with a sneer on his face. Demonic aura surged around his body, and he looked extremely ferocious. A mere trash at the 5th level of the spirit stage. You think the ancient demon sect is something that you can comment on? Demon you, what do you know? Huang Qingtian sneered. His voice rumbled as he stared at Chu Yang. Based on what you just said, it won't be enough even if you die 1,000 times. The ancient devil sect was the ancestor of all the devils in the East Continent. It was the origin of the devil Tao in the East Continent. Therefore, to belittle the ancient devil sect was to belittle them. Any devil in the East Continent would be pissed off by Chu Yang's disdain and would not let him go. Chu Yang clasped his hands behind his back and said indifferently, "What's a demon? You're just a beast. You're not even fit to talk to me." Because you don't understand at all, and in this East continent, I am the only devil. Ignorant fool. Huang Qingtian immediately laughed sinisterly. His killing intent soared as he closed in and coldly said, I'll tell you clearly. Your grandpa Huang has done all kinds of bad things since childhood. After joining the Bone Devil sect, I became even more unbridled and killed countless people. In order to cultivate the devil grievance blade, I humiliated their wives in front of their husbands. I ate their children in front of their husbands and mothers, causing them to be filled with resentment and kill me. You dare to say that I don't understand demons? If I don't understand demons, then who does? If I'm not a demon, then who is? Chu Yang's pupils shrank. Killing intent surged in his heart. It was fine if Huang Qingtian killed them, but he wanted them to die with resentment and grievance. Such actions were simply outrageous. Only a beast would do such a thing. Well said. Another voice sounded out. Chu Yang looked over, but he didn't see anyone. He only saw the blood banner. To be exact, it should be the array flag within the demonic bell. The person who came was naturally the devil that ambushed Chu Yang, Lan Qingyue. However, since Chu Yang had concealed his aura in the eastern wilderness and changed his appearance, Lan Qingyue couldn't recognize him. Chapter 11:22. The more Chu Yang listened, the more his killing intent grew. He sneered, A beast will always be a beast. Stop humiliating a demon. If you can't even be a human, how can you be a demon? What a joke. Looking down with a clear conscience, looking up with a clear conscience, this is a true demon. A beast? You'll be killed as a beast later. Huang Qingtian's gloomy voice sounded again and again. He pulled out a devil saber. Immediately, countless ferocious ghosts appeared on the saber's blade. It seemed as if they wanted to rush out and tear Chu Yang into pieces. A vicious aura surged out as boundless resentment swept over. When the blade appeared, an extremely cold aura filled the air. The dense ghostly aura caused one's scalp to go numb. The coldness seemed to freeze one's blood. Humph! Chu Yang let out a cold snort. He suddenly waved his hand in front of him, and a vortex appeared in the air. Immediately, the vortex turned pitch black as if it was a black hole. With a single sweep, all the ghostly aura, vicious aura, and the strongest resentment were swept away. It was as if all the malicious spirits were sucked into the underworld and allowed to enter the cycle of reincarnation. Crack! Crack! The demonic blade instantly lost its power. Cracks even appeared on it before it shattered. All of Huang Qingtian's evil techniques, as well as the terrifying sharpening knife, were instantly destroyed and lost all of their power. Damned bastard! Although Huang Qingtian was furious, he couldn't help but inwardly gasp. What kind of technique was this? It almost made him lose his courage. The demonic blade's resentment, vicious aura, and ghostly aura were extremely dense. Not to mention those at the spirit stage, even those at the soul fusion stage would be invaded by the resentment and freeze once the demonic blade approached them. The resentment was like a malicious spirit. It would corrode and devour the person's bones, soul, and even spiritual energy. It would then increase the power of the demonic blade. Huang Qingtian spent 5 years to forge the demonic blade. He didn't know how many people he had killed and how much effort he had put in. He didn't know how many opponents he had killed with this demonic blade. However, he never expected that Chu Yang, who was only at the 5th level of the spirit stage, would be able to destroy everything in an instant. His devil's grudge saber seemed to have met its natural enemy. Damned bastard, you destroyed my devil's resentment blade. I'll beat you to death. The more fearful Huang Qingtian was, the more ruthless he became. He suddenly took a deep breath, and the muscles on his body suddenly bulged out from under his skin. They were very plump, and looked like a horned dragon. His body grew taller little by little until he was more than 50 feet tall. Then, he stopped. Long hair grew all over his body. His eye sockets were deep and his mouth bulged. He looked like a violent demon ape, beating its chest and roaring. An incomparably violent aura swept out, and the immense power also rose steadily. It became stronger and stronger, and more powerful, and astonishingly rose to the power of 10,000 dragons. Violent Devil Ape's divine ability, Devil Dao Body Cultivator. Chu Yang narrowed his eyes. Body cultivation was difficult, so there were very few cultivators. He didn't expect that the demon in front of him was actually a body cultivator. However, he was too weak. He only had the strength of 10,000 dragons when he was in the soul fusion realm. As for the violent demonic ape, Chu Yang knew very well that Little Black was one. It had extraordinary strength, and could move mountains and fill seas. It could chase stars and seize the moon. Chu Yang had originally mastered this kind of body cultivation technique, but it was erased after he entered the East Continent. At this moment, he observed that Huang Qingtian's violent demonic ape was not much different from the one he had mastered before. Roar! Huang Qingtian opened his mouth and roared like a wild beast. Wherever the sound wave passed, the mountain rocks floated up and then exploded into pieces. Heaven and earth control. Chu Yang did not move at all, as if he was being controlled. Huang Qingtian's heart calmed down, and he laughed sinisterly. Brat, you just said that I don't know what a demon is, and you even destroyed my devil's saber. Today, Grandpa Huang will let you know what a demon is, and what the consequences of offending a demon are. Dong. He stepped down, and the earth trembled. His aura suddenly became stronger. Dong dong dong. Chapter 11:23. Just as he arrived in front of Huang Qingtian, Chu Yang finally moved. The space around him collapsed, but he didn't move much. He simply raised his palm and slammed down. Huang Qingtian felt his blood run cold when he saw that the heaven and earth control had failed. However, when he raised his head to look, he saw a palm coming down. Suddenly, he became courageous and rushed over. Although the palm didn't seem to be anything special, when it landed, it was as if the heavens and the earth were about to collapse. Huang Qingtian was terrified. He roared out and ignored Chu Yang. Instead, he used all his strength to counter the attack. At this moment, his arms were extremely large. Both of his hands were filled with blood, and the blood vessels were as thick as a thumb. He used the 10,000 dragon force to counter the attack. This was an extremely terrifying power. At least, that was how Huang Qingtian saw it. Boom! Upon contact, Huang Qingtian immediately felt an abundant and enormous force pouring into his body like a flood. His eyes widened in disbelief. Crackling sounds came from his body, followed by flying swords and pieces of broken bones. In the blink of an eye, he was like a broken sieve, riddled with holes. You're only at the 5th level of the spirit realm, yet you can kill me with a single palm. How can there be such a person in this world? Huang Qingtian's voice was trembling. Chu Yang said indifferently, I've said it before. I'm the real demon, but you don't understand. Bang! Huang Qingtian was immediately torn apart as his flesh and blood scattered all over the ground. Whoosh! Lan Qingyue was originally watching from the side. When he saw Huang Qingtian die so miserably, he didn't dare to stay any longer and immediately ran for his life. You should kill yourself. Chu Yang didn't move. He stood in the air, but his voice was clearly heard. Do you think I'm a fool? After running for a while, Lan Qingyue felt that Chu Yang wouldn't be able to catch up to him. He immediately sneered, Brat, you've been looking for me for 100 years to kill me. Since you're the enemy of my bone demon sect, I'll definitely slaughter your entire family. His voice suddenly came to an abrupt halt. Chu Yang had appeared in front of him at some point in time, blocking his path. But when he turned around, he saw that Chu Yang was still standing there. That was fake. The one in front of me is the real one. That's why this little bastard is so calm. He's toying with me. A cat toying with a mouse, intolerable. Damned little bastard, do you really think I can't do anything to you? Since there's no one here, I'll let you know what fear is. Lan Qingyue was enraged. He shook the blood banner in his hand and swung it at Chu Yang. He couldn't help but grin as he waited to see a dried corpse. However, after a quick glance, the little bastard in front of him was still the same as before. How is that possible? That's impossible. I've tested this treasure before. Even a Nirvana realm expert would be reduced to a dried-up corpse with a single sweep of it. How could you possibly block it? Buzz buzz buzz. Then, Lan Qingyue was shocked. He realized that the blood banner in his hand was no longer under his control. It suddenly flew out of his hand and landed in Chu Yang's hand. It turned into a 3-inch flag and spun around. Correction, this isn't a banner, it's a flag. Chu Yang said, Don't be so stupid that you can't differentiate between a banner and a flag. You're the owner of the flag. With a plop, Lan Qingyue collapsed to the ground like a catfish. The more he understood the flag, the more he knew how terrifying it was. At that moment, he finally knew who he had encountered. Lin Fan said that he didn't understand demons, and he really didn't. Lin Fan was indeed the ancestor of demons. Senior, please spare my life. Lan Qingyue struggled and knelt on the ground to beg for mercy. Chu Yang was indifferent. He held the small flag in his hand and said, It's damaged, so it needs to be repaired. However, you used it as a tool to kill. You deserve to die for insulting the flag. Yes, Senior. Lan Qingyue committed suicide. In his opinion, that was already the best treatment. If it was him, he would definitely make Chu Yang beg for death. This wicked guy is becoming more and more unfathomable and terrifying. The parrot saw everything and its heart was beating rapidly. It was completely shocked. Beiqianxing, Li Xingsan, the 6 great academies, look who's going to die this time? I want to be a demon and kill all living things. Chu Yang's gaze was as sharp as a sword. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly disappeared, leaving the parrot where it was. The parrot was stunned, then suddenly shouted, Wicked, you can't do that. Why didn't you bring me along, you bastard? It cursed for a while, then sat on the ground. It naturally knew what Chu Yang meant by doing that. Wicked, I haven't taken my revenge yet. If you die in there, I can only whip your corpse to vent my hatred. Chapter 11:24. 7 Wheels Demon Realm, Supreme Demon Sovereign's Spirit Wheel. As noon approached, Beiqianxing and Li Xingsan's arena was bustling with noise. As noon approached, the clamor was like boiling water. The sound seemed to be able to burn people's eardrums. Beheading at noon was meant to kill a criminal, but Beiqianxing and Li Xingsan weren't going to kill a criminal, but a dog, a little wild dog. The little wild dog had been hung for a day and a night. Its hair was messy, its lips were dry, and it was very tired. It was already on the verge of death, but every time it opened its eyes, it would see a sea of blood and endless hatred. This little wild dog sure has guts. It even dares to glare. The old wild dog was beheaded in front of him, but it didn't scare him. A beast will always be a beast. Doesn't it know that the one who died was its father? Maybe it's not its own, haha. Many people laughed, but no one sympathized with it. They were even mocking the child. At this moment, Beiqianxing, Li Xingsan, Feng Polong, and Su Yiling were all geniuses of the 4 great academies. The 4 of them were all at the same level, either 5th or 6th level of the soul fusion realm. Beiqianxing's eyes were very malicious, like a poisonous snake waiting for its prey. Li Xingsan's face was cold. He looked at the hanging child without any emotion. His heart was made of stone. His mind was thinking about how to torture the child to force Chu Yang out. Feng Polong's expression was cynical and his eyes were full of contempt. Only Su Yiling was unwilling to look at the child. Hearing the ridicule of the East Continent's people, she finally couldn't hold back her anger and angrily shouted, All of you shut up. If you disturb my ears again, don't blame me for being impolite." Below the arena, there was a moment of silence. A group of adults mocking a child. Su Yiling was an eyesore. Bei Qinxing laughed. Women are always so soft-hearted. Even a dog is pitiful, but, after a pause, Bei Qinxing looked at Su Yiling mockingly like a mad dog. "What does this have to do with you? Didn't you say you wouldn't get involved?" It was indeed a mad dog. Su Yiling's gaze turned cold. She looked at the child who was hung up and said coldly, "Bei Qinxing, now that you're hanging him up like this, have you ever thought about your younger siblings or your future children? Or have you ever thought about the many children in the Eastern continent who will suffer because of what you did today?" Hearing this, the faces of the people present could not help but change. If the wild dog did not come, then based on the previous Jingguan, this was very likely. At that time, if Chu Yang was described as a demon, then Bei Qinxing and Li Xingsan were demons first, because they were the ones who started everything. The wild dog doesn't have the chance. Even if he didn't come today, he won't be able to get out of the Seven Wheels demon area alive. Li Xingsan said coldly. His tone was so firm that the East Continent's people believed him. "Can't escape?" Su Yiling sneered. "Are you lying to yourself? Can't you feel the recent changes in the Seven Wheels demon area? If the demonic bell is taken away, do you think the Seven Wheels demon area won't collapse completely?" Chu Yang had taken away the origin of the 5 souls of the 2 supreme figures in the Seven Wheels demon area. The Seven Wheels demon area had become very unstable. Chapter 11:25. The heads of the 6 great academies also thought so. Even though the 6 of them couldn't move the demonic bell, they didn't give up. In their opinion, they were trying their best to separate the demonic bell from the Seven Wheels demonic realm. Their guess seemed to be correct. With their continuous efforts, the Seven Wheels demonic realm had indeed undergone a great change. It could be said that the Seven Wheels demonic realm had become much weaker than before. The heads of the 6 great academies couldn't figure out the real reason. If they knew, they would be so angry that they would spit out a few mouthfuls of blood. They would even want to beat Chu Yang to death. If it weren't for Chu Yang's misdirection, they would never do such a stupid thing. The arena set up by Bei Qinxing and Li Xingsan wasn't far from the demonic bell. It could be seen from afar. If we don't kill the wild dog now, there will be endless trouble in the future. Li Xingsan always had his own reasons, and they seemed to be very sufficient. Li Xingsan, do you also plan to kill Eastern Wilderness 007, Eastern Wilderness 001, and Eastern Wilderness 003? Feng Polong suddenly said, "Even if you kill Eastern Wilderness 002 in the Seven Wheels demonic realm, Li Xingsan, if you have family, sisters, and children, then I'll give you a suggestion. You should be careful. I welcome him to kill my family." Li Xingsan's voice was suddenly cut off, because a voice came from afar. "Two-legged maggot, are you sure?" It was a very indifferent and incomparably cold voice. This voice made the whole arena dead silent. In an instant, everyone looked in that direction. There was no trace of sound, and even everyone's breathing seemed to have stopped. Hanging in the arena, when he heard the voice, he suddenly opened his eyes, revealing a pair of blood-red eyes, and looked in the direction of the voice. At the demonic bell, the heads of the 6 great academies seemed to be looking over. "Two-legged maggot, I'm asking you if you're sure? If you're sure, you're welcome to kill your family." The voice rang out again, getting closer and closer. As everyone looked over, a figure appeared in the distance, slowly walking over. That figure seemed fearless and imposing. It seemed slow but was actually extremely fast. Soon, a young man with a curly beard and a precocious face appeared in front of everyone in the East Continent. Eastern Wilderness 002. Everyone knew that this was Eastern Wilderness 002. They also knew that this was definitely not the real face of Eastern Wilderness 002. It was just a face that he had used before. Whoosh! The crowd went into an uproar. Eastern Wilderness 002 had arrived. Eastern Wilderness 002 had actually arrived. Many people couldn't believe it. They rubbed their eyes, and when they looked again, Eastern Wilderness 002 was even closer. They could clearly see his cold expression. His entire person was as cold as ice, and his voice was also as cold as ice. Hearing it made people's hearts shiver. "Uncle, hurry up and leave. Don't come and save me." Suddenly, a childish and desperate voice attracted everyone's attention. It was the child who had been hung up. Chu Yang was in midair. When he heard the childish voice, his body couldn't help but tremble. Tears almost fell from his eyes. What a sensible child! "Child, don't worry," Chu Yang said softly. "Your uncle is a demon, the only demon in the East Continent. No one can kill him." When Su Yiling heard the voice, her phoenix eyes couldn't help but look at Chu Yang. He dared to come at this time. She couldn't help but admire such a man. At this moment, Feng Pelong's eyes shone brightly. Chu Yang dared to come, so he was worthy of being his opponent. Unfortunately, he would die in the hands of two lowly people. "Demon? Ha ha!" Bei Chenxing laughed. "You're not even a human. You're just a dog. How dare you call yourself a demon? Are you worthy?" Chapter 11:26. "Child, do you blame me?" Chu Yang looked at the child's bloodshot eyes. Guilt gnawed at his heart like 1,000 parasites. He couldn't imagine how an 11 or 12-year-old child would feel when he saw his own father's head being chopped off and rolled in front of him. What kind of hatred would that be? "Father said that it's not your fault. You're a hero. Doing this is so that one day, Mother won't be taken away so easily." The child's voice was loud and clear. Then, he suddenly looked at everyone in the East Continent and said hatefully, "It's all their fault. They don't treat us as humans. They treat us like pigs and dogs. They've gone too far." Sob, sob. As he spoke, tears streamed down his face. He finally cried. Chu Yang was heartbroken when he heard that. Chu Yang wiped away the tears on his face and said with certainty, "All of this will change. One day, no one in the East Continent will dare to discriminate against the people of the Eastern Wilderness. Uncle, I promise you that you'll do it. If I can't do it, I'll kill everyone in the East Continent." Sob, sob. "Uncle, you must save my mother." The child cried harder and harder when he heard the promise. He begged Chu Yang to save his mother. "After we get out, we'll save Mother." The killing intent in Chu Yang's heart had never been so strong and intense before. "What's your mother's name? Who took her away?" "My mother's name is Chao Xiaomei. The Li family took my mother away because she was pretty. My father can't stop thinking about saving my mother. That's why he told me that if there are more and more people like you, no one will dare to bully us." "I know. I'll definitely save your mother," Chu Yang said. "Your father is a real hero. He's a real man. You have to learn from him and stop crying in front of the enemy." "Yes, uncle. What's your name?" "My name is Wang Bushong. Don't hurt." Does he not want the child to be hurt for the rest of his life? But now, how cold and cruel was the current situation. Chu Yang's heart suddenly became incomparably dim. "Humph, wild dog, do you think you can go back alive?" Bei Chenxing sneered again, but he was once again completely ignored by Chu Yang. Chu Yang pushed Wang Bushong behind him and stood up. He looked at the crowd with cold eyes and said in a cold voice, "Today, whoever leaves this place alive, remember to tell that so-called Li family, if Sister Chao is injured, I will kill the entire Li family. If Sister Chao dies, I will kill 10 generations of the Li family." His voice was as cold as ice and as furious as thunder. It wasn't loud, but it resounded in everyone's hearts, rumbling without end. Everyone could hear the decisiveness in Chu Yang's words. He would definitely do what he said. "Ridiculous. Wild dog, you're about to die. Who are you threatening?" It was Bei Chenxing again, but Chu Yang still didn't look him in the eye. He just said coldly, I can't do it. Eastern Wilderness 001 can do it, Eastern Wilderness 003 can do it, and Eastern Wilderness 007 can do it. Since there are so many people in the Eastern Wilderness, there must be someone who can do it. I ask you to pass on my message. I'll personally pass on your message. The sudden voice shocked everyone. They looked over and saw that it was Fong Polong from the Sky Sword Academy. If you don't die today, please fight with me. Fong Polong said in a low voice. There are more people in the eastern continent like Bai Qianxing and Li Xingsan. During this time, Bai Qianxing and Li Xingsan both spoke, but Chu Yang and Fong Polong treated them as dogs barking. Chu Yang used his spiritual energy to attach to his back. He cupped his fists and said to Fong Polong, "Thank you. As for your request, you can rest assured that you and I will fight." After that, Chu Yang looked coldly at Bai Qianxing. "Come here. Let me show you how useless you are." His tone was full of disdain and domineering. He was only one person, but he looked down on hundreds of thousands of people in the eastern continent. Chapter 11:27. I'm a piece of trash? Amidst the dead silence, Bai Qianxing pointed at himself in astonishment. He couldn't believe that he was called a piece of trash. Someone actually called him a piece of trash. This was something that had never happened before. Bai Qianxing had always been associated with geniuses and had never been associated with a piece of trash. However, Bai Qianxing knew that the wild dog was definitely talking about him. He quickly sneered and said, "Wild dog, you dare to say such words? I see that you have truly become a mad dog. However, if you weren't a mad dog, you wouldn't have dared to come here. Right now, I can barely understand the actions of a dog." He pointed at Chu Yang and said, "Wild dog, you didn't come here because of your courage. It's because you're crazy." Ha! The disciples of the Star Combat Academy immediately burst into laughter. Everyone from the East Continent also burst into laughter. The originally tense atmosphere was instantly swept away. Bai Qianxing was a piece of trash. This was too funny. If Bai Qianxing was a piece of trash, then who in the East Continent wasn't a piece of trash? They felt that Bai Qianxing's explanation was even more incisive. That's right, only a crazy person would do such a thing. Wild Dog had already gone crazy. At best, he was just a mad dog. Everyone from the East Continent immediately understood what they were afraid of. Chu Yang's madness. If it was a powerful wild dog, then it would naturally be terrifying. However, how terrifying could a mere spirit stage 5th level wild dog be? Furthermore, even if Bai Qianxing was defeated, the wild dog would definitely not be able to leave this place alive. Why should they be afraid? They looked at the extremely confident Bai Qianxing and felt that they were actually frightened by a mere wild dog. They even feared the wild dog. They felt that they were truly laughable. Therefore, they were no longer afraid of Chu Yang. They laughed very loudly. Chu Yang's expression did not change. If he failed to intimidate them, then so be it. It was not important. At most, he would kill a few more people until they were afraid. He was looking forward to seeing the terrified expressions on the maggots' faces. You, Bai Qianxing, are a good-for-nothing. Everyone in the East Continent is also a good-for-nothing. Why wouldn't I dare come? Chu Yang sneered. Excuse me, no matter how many maggots there are in the manure pit, will you be afraid? Oh, I forgot. He suddenly said, I'm very good at coming up with names. From now on, all of you from the East Continent will be called the Eastern Maggot. You scold me as a wild dog, and I'll scold you as an Eastern Maggot. Su Yiling frowned. If Chu Yang didn't die after today's battle, the Eastern Wilderness and the Eastern Wilderness would be at odds with each other. The two words Eastern Maggot would be spoken by the people of the Eastern Wilderness, and the two sides would fight to the death. But what could she say? This started from the East Continent. The people of the East Continent had been calling the people of the Eastern Wilderness wild dog for many years. They were only now retaliating. Unlike her, when the people of the East Continent heard the two words Eastern Maggot, their expressions turned ugly. Some of them immediately shouted at Chu Yang. Wild dog, who do you think you are? You can't judge and insult us from the East Continent. You're just a wild dog. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. You're about to die and you still dare to be presumptuous. This is a mad dog. Why are you angry with him? Just kill him. That's right. Xingzi, kill this wild dog. Kill him. Chapter 11:28. Fast, it was really too fast, so fast that no one could react, caught off guard. Chu Yang appeared in the crowd, and the crowd retreated like the tide. Cough, cough. This person used all kinds of methods and tried to pry open Chu Yang's hand with both hands, but it was all to no avail. Chu Yang strangled him and said coldly, "Tell me, why can't I scold you if you can scold me? Are you nobler? Then the cause of your death is nobleness." With a crack, Chu Yang broke his neck. Whoosh! He moved again, and the second person who opened his mouth to curse was lifted up by the neck by him. "Wild dog, don't you dare!" Bei Chenxing roared and rushed over. Chu Yang didn't even look at him. He looked at the person coldly and said, "Tell me, how do you spell the word death?" Boom! Bei Chenxing missed, and there was a big explosion. Chu Yang had disappeared. When he reappeared, the third person who shouted was lifted up by the neck. "Am I crazy or are you crazy? You really can't be angry with me now." Whoosh! 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 Chu Yang's body flashed again and again. With the path to heaven and the three spacetime gates as spacetime marks, he killed all the people who shouted just now. "Wild dog, do you want to be beaten up by a group?" Bei Chenxing chased after him desperately, but he didn't even get to eat a speck of dust. He even injured many people from the East Continent and roared. Chu Yang looked at Bei Chenxing. "You look like a dog now, running behind its master. You're so tired that your tongue is about to stick out." Before Bei Chenxing could say anything, he sneered again. "A group fight? Of course, I don't mind trampling a group of maggots to death. As for you guys blocking this space to guard against my supernatural power, do you really think you can stop me? If I want to go, I will go. If I want to kill, I will kill. Who can stop me?" There was no one within 30 meters of Chu Yang. The move he had just displayed had truly frightened everyone in the East Continent. His space-time divine ability was truly heaven-defying. Bei Chenxing's expression turned even colder. He sneered, "Wild dog, what a load of bullshit you're spewing. Trying to kill me is even more of a joke. I can kill you with a single slap. You want to slap me to death, don't you?" Chu Yang laughed and walked straight towards Bei Chenxing. Along the way, the people of the East Continent opened up a path for them. Wang Bushang watched all this from behind Chu Yang, a strange light flashing in his eyes. He said excitedly, "Eastern Maggot is scared, they are scared. Father is right. Only when there are more and more people like Uncle will no longer dare to bully us. Only then will Eastern Maggot not dare to snatch Mother away. Killing you is indeed as easy as flipping my hand. Even one slap is too much." As the supreme genius of the Star Battle Academy, Bei Chenxing had achieved the 3 transformations of the primitive martial arts, the 3 transformations of the Qi soul, and the 3 transformations of the ascended soul. He had become a rare extreme realm practitioner, so he was rather conceited. He definitely didn't think that a wild dog like Chu Yang would be able to last one round against him. Although this wild dog was a divine arts practitioner, how could that dry well in the eastern wilderness be compared to the sea of the East Continent? No matter how big a frog in a dry well jumped, how could it be compared to a true dragon in the sea? "Oh, if you want to slap me to death, why don't you come and see? Wild dog, what are you showing off for? You're just relying on the space-time divine ability you stole from that broken world in the eastern wilderness. Everything else is just bullshit to me." Bei Chenxing was even more disdainful. "Eastern Maggot, stop talking. Your Grandpa Chu is already in front of you. Hurry up and slap him to death. Chapter 11:29. What a pity. I didn't want to kill a wild dog like you so easily because that would be letting you off too easily. But since you came to me and asked me to slap you to death, I don't mind sending you on your way with one slap. Bei Chenxing sneered. Suddenly, his body turned into a shadow. He was so fast that he looked like a figure in a painting. Just as he said, he only slapped his hand. His right hand was raised high, and the light of the stars was dazzling. At this moment, everyone present held their breaths and watched this scene without blinking. They wanted to see if Bei Chenxing could slap Chu Yang to death. Chu Yang stood still, but his spiritual qi surged as if he was struggling. Then, the spiritual qi turned into mist and shrouded him. Struggling is useful. You're frozen and can't move, right? Bei Chenxing's voice floated out. He was even more disdainful. He used the mastery of heaven and earth on Chu Yang. Chu Yang didn't respond. He waited quietly for Bei Chenxing to come closer. Then, he waved his right hand and met the shining fingers of the star. Slap. A crisp sound of a slap rang out. Slap. A second slap. The crisp slaps were very loud. The two slaps were like two claps of thunder. They exploded continuously and spread throughout the whole place. However, the place was shrouded in mist. Very few people could see what was happening inside. Only the light of the stars could be seen. I've said it before. Bei Chenxing is a peerless genius. Wild Dog will definitely be slapped to death if he dares to challenge him. It seems that one slap is not enough. Even two slaps are too much. The stars are dazzling and the divine power is overflowing. The strength of the Star Child's slap is terrifying. Wild Dog will probably lose his face if he doesn't die this time. Haha. Bei Chenxing is a supreme state cultivator after all. It's not strange for him to slap a wild dog to death. Many people in the East Continent were amazed. Some even laughed out loud. However, when the fog dissipated, all of them were stunned. They were tongue-tied and had no choice but to swallow the words they were about to say. In the center of the field, Chu Yang was completely unharmed. His long sleeves fluttered as he stood there calmly. As for Bei Chenxing, his face was deathly pale, and there was a clear handprint on his right cheek. Half of his face was swollen, and he had retreated far away. His right palm, which he had just slapped out, was completely twisted and deformed. Fresh blood was gushing out, and even the bones in his palm were broken and pierced through his skin. How is this possible? The wild dog actually beat up the Star Battle Academy's genius, Bei Chenxing, until his palm was deformed and his bones were broken. Bei Chenxing is a Lamiter, but he's still not a match? In the entire East Continent, there aren't many people in the same realm who can injure Bei Chenxing like this. The wild dog is actually so amazing. Everyone from the East Continent was shocked. Not only had Bei Chenxing's palm been broken, but he had also been ruthlessly slapped by the wild dog. As they had said, half of his face was almost gone. They couldn't help but be shocked. Chu Yang was very calm. This was not unusual for him. Controlling the heavens and earth was useless to him. In terms of physical strength, was there anyone in the East Continent who could compete with him? He could kill a fifth-tier soul fusion realm cultivator with his physical strength alone. Bei Chenxing had actually dared to fight him head-on. He was simply courting death. Wild Dog Bei Chenxing's face was pale. Not only was his palm broken, but his entire arm had also been broken into several pieces. Just now, no one knew better than him what had happened. When he slapped over, the other side was like a mountain crashing over. There was no way to resist such an enormous force. Eastern Maggot, you want to kill me with one slap? It seems that you can't do it. I know myself. It's impossible for me to kill you with one slap, but it's not a problem for me to slap you. As soon as Chu Yang finished speaking, he raised his hand and slapped over. Wild dog, can you slap me? Bei Chenxing had lost all his face. He roared ferociously and tried to defend himself at the same time. At this moment, he already knew how terrifying Chu Yang's physical strength was, so he didn't dare to touch him directly. His spiritual energy surged and turned into a shield of starlight, protecting his left and right sides. Ha ha! Chu Yang laughed. I just said that I'll leave if I want to. If I want to kill someone, I'll kill someone. No one can stop me. If I want to slap you, I'll slap you. How can you avoid it? Ridiculous, wild dog, you have the ability to. Bei Chenxing's voice stopped abruptly. He was horrified to find that Chu Yang's palm suddenly flashed past the shield and appeared in front of him, slapping him in the face. Slap, 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 slap. Bei Chenxing's face was swollen and he was sent flying. Chu Yang looked at Bei Chenxing and sneered. Eastern maggot, is there a problem with me saying that you're a waste? If I say I'll slap you, I'll slap you. Is there a problem? Li Xingsan, Su Yiling, and Feng Pelong's pupils constricted when they saw this scene. The people of the East Continent couldn't believe it. They stared blankly at this scene, and Chu Yang's domineering words echoed in their ears. Waste, kill yourself. Chapter 1130. Bei Chenxing's face stiffened. Blood rushed to his face. His right arm was trembling, and his entire body was trembling. Wild dog, I was just bitten by you, and you dare to bare your teeth at me? I'm going to knock all your teeth out one by one. Let's see how you're going to bite me then. Humiliation, an unprecedented humiliation. Bei Chenxing was mad with hatred. He roared at the top of his lungs. Suddenly, he was like a star erupting with dazzling starlight. His entire body became transparent, and the 7 chakras in his body appeared like 7 stars in a line. Crack! His broken bones connected, and his flesh was reborn. In just a short time, Bei Chenxing's broken arm, his twisted and deformed palm, and half of his swollen face were healed in an instant. His handsome face was twisted and sinister, and his steel-like teeth were almost crushed from clenching. At this moment, he was like an enraged celestial monarch. The color of the sky changed, and the stars seemed like they were about to fall and destroy the world. The pressure that erupted caused everyone in the East Continent to be shocked and frightened. Some people couldn't help but tremble. Strong, he was too strong. At this moment, many people finally understood why Bei Chenxing, who was only at the 5th level of the Soul Fusion realm, could command and shout at Nirvana realm expert. It was because his future was too shocking, and it was limitless. Chu Yang couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Bei Chenxing's 7 chakras were incomparably powerful, so he was able to heal in an instant. Why are you angry? Wild dog only insulted you to provoke you. He just used his space-time ability to humiliate you, but he couldn't hurt you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be alive right now. From the direction of the Devil's Bell, an old but incomparably powerful voice rumbled over. It was like a basin of cold water had been poured on Bei Chenxing's head, causing him to instantly calm down and lose all his anger. The Dean of the Star Academy. It turned out that the Dean of the Star Academy and the Dean of the 5 Great Academies were paying attention to this situation. Although the people of the East Continent were shocked, they also completely calmed down. With the headmasters of the 6 Great Academies here, what could Wild Dog do? He couldn't escape the fate of death. Make me angry and mess with my mind. Bei Chenxing said coldly, Wild Dog, it's useless even if you succeed. However, because of a dog like you, I lost my composure just now. It was indeed a loss of face. You're just a mad dog. Why should I be angry? If I don't like you, I'll just kill you. Chu Yang laughed. Eastern maggot, do I need to anger you to kill you? Don't misunderstand, I was just humiliating you. I can clearly tell you that today, I will humiliate you until you doubt your life, until you want to die, until you know how to write the word trash, and admit that you are a maggot of the East. Wild dog, I've seen through your little tricks. Your provocation won't work. Bei Qianxing's anger was completely suppressed. Right now there was only coldness, killing intent, and disdain in him. He really saw it that way. Chu Yang was just a dog, so why should he be angry? He could just kill him. As he spoke, he opened his mouth and spat out a bead. It suddenly enlarged to the size of a small mountain and hung above his head. Streaks of starlight flowed down like flowing water, protecting his entire body. It's the Star Battle Bead from the Star Academy. Immediately, someone exclaimed. This wasn't the end. Bei Qianxing opened his mouth and spat out a white lotus. It shone brilliantly and was as heavy as a mountain. Even though they were very far away, the East Continent's people almost couldn't breathe. They felt as if there was a mountain weighing down on their hearts. Chapter 1131. Crack, crack. The ground beneath Bei Qianxing's feet suddenly cracked, and large cracks appeared. Chu Yang's eyes narrowed slightly. This was the ground formed by the corpse of the supreme demon Venerable in the Seven Wheels demonic realm. It was incomparably hard. The parrot had used all its strength to grab the supreme demon Venerable's throat, and its claws had been broken. Although he had absorbed the essences of the 5 souls of the 2 boundless entities in the Seven Wheels Devil domain, it was much weaker than before. If the parrot clawed at it again, it wouldn't be able to do the same thing again. However, the ground here was still much tougher than it had been on the outside. However, he did not panic. These 2 treasures were very extraordinary, especially the astral bead. It should be a treasure like his 5 elements heaven circulation ring, but they were only treasures of the soul amalgamation realm. This was not a problem for him. Chu Yang directly attacked. He rushed forward, and his palms and fingers were like hammers. He slammed down heavily on the white lotus, and the halo of the stars instantly shattered. However, the white lotus was not damaged. The starlight became even brighter, and it rumbled down. Chu Yang raised one hand and blocked the force in the air. The white lotus was as heavy as a mountain, and it was a little difficult for his body to bear. The star pearl rose up and flew towards the white lotus. The 2 merged into one, and immediately, there was an endless amount of starlight. Its weight increased explosively, and it pressed Chu Yang down. Only when Chu Yang landed on the ground did it stop. The astral bead is a treasure of the Astral Academy. It is said that it is as heavy as a star and can't be withstood. Wild Dog actually withstood it with just his body. This is unbelievable. Everyone in the East Continent was shocked. However, what made them flabbergasted was yet to come. Chu Yang's hands continuously punched out, and the fists that were formed seemed to be on the verge of collapsing the void. Humph! Bei Qianxing chuckled coldly, and his hands began to form a seal. Immediately, the 9 streaks of starlight above the Big Star Academy and the white lotus converged and transformed into flowing water. Frigid chi seeped out, and the surroundings were instantly frozen. In the end, the frozen water transformed into an astral saber that expanded to a length of 300 feet, and it slashed down at Chu Yang. Bei Qianxing has actually cultivated the 9 stellar primordial water. It is said that every drop of this stellar primordial water is extremely heavy, and it also has an extremely cold power that can freeze a person to death. What's even more frightening is that he used the stellar primordial water to forge the butcher's knife. This kind of secret technique is even more terrifying. Not only does it kill the body, it also slashes the soul. That should be the Star Academy's 9 Starblade. It's only the beginning, and he's already using it. How shocking! Obviously, such means are definitely not a trump card for Bei Qianxing. What's more terrifying is yet to come. Everyone from the East Continent watched on nervously. The 9 celestial primordial water could extinguish primordial fire, and its corrosive power was extremely strong. Its cold air was astonishing, and it could freeze and crack fine gold. Furthermore, it was extremely heavy. When refined into the 9-een star blade, its power was unparalleled. Chu Yang let out a low roar and directly used the 9 revolutions. His arms shook 9 times, and an astonishing 50,000 dragon strength burst forth. Boom, boom, boom. After 9 attacks, the White Lotus cracked, and the Star Academy's star bead was sent flying. Boom. He threw out another punch, and the White Lotus exploded. Starlight burst out, and it was incomparably dazzling. The wild dog is so shocking. He destroyed a soul amalgamation realm treasure with his bare hands. How terrifying is his strength! His physical body is even sturdier than a treasure. How did he cultivate? Is he a body cultivator? There's no doubt that he's a body cultivator. Body cultivators are the most difficult. There are very few who can cultivate to the soul amalgamation realm. This wild dog is simply too terrifying. Everyone from the East Continent was dumbfounded. They were all in disbelief. The 9-een star blade slashed down, and the starlight fell on the nearby people like flowing water. It reflected the starlight on their skin, and the cold air was bone-piercing. A thin layer of frost actually formed on their skin. Pa! Chapter 1132. The 9-een astral blade can kill both the body and the spirit. Heavens, the wild dog actually caught it with his bare hands and was completely unharmed. Is this the body of a demon god? How can there be such a terrifying body? Rumble! Like a flood, Star North Star activated his 9-een celestial knife. The starlight was like water, overflowing in all directions. It flooded towards Chu Yang. The 9-een astral primordial water could melt metal and devour iron. A single drop was enough to penetrate and freeze a cultivator's body. It was like a surging flood. Just how terrifying was its power? It was simply unimaginable. However, Chu Yang was like a huge sun. His entire body shone with boundless light like a dam. He blocked all the primordial water and even evaporated it. It couldn't do anything to him. Crack, crack. The 9-een astral blade was broken by him and turned into primordial water and starlight. In the end, it was completely dispersed by him and no longer posed any threat. Such a scene shocked everyone from the East Continent. The 9-een astral blade, that was refined with a secret star technique, couldn't even withstand a single blow. It was destroyed by the wild dog's bare hand. How is this possible? Beiqianxing's expression finally changed. He immediately wanted to distance himself from Chu Yang. The wild dog was undoubtedly a body cultivator. If it was a close combat battle, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. He was very sullen, especially after hearing everyone's words. The genius of the Star Battle Academy was actually defeated. That's a supreme genius of the Star Battle Academy, but he couldn't even withstand a single blow from the wild dog. Everyone from the East Continent was shocked. Su Yiling, Li Xingsan, and Feng Polong also had solemn expressions. Body cultivators were extremely difficult, but Chu Yang had cultivated to such a level that he could fight across realms. Trash, I'll slap you until you doubt your life. Chu Yang's speed was extremely fast. Just as Beiqianxing was about to retreat, he arrived before him in an instant. His palms and fingers expanded to the size of millstones as he slapped down on Beiqianxing's face, causing the void to buzz. Although Beiqianxing was astonished, he wasn't afraid. He summoned his astral pearl back to protect himself. Can you do that? Astral pearl. However, how could he have imagined that the palm was unparalleled, and it had sucked dry all the essence of heaven and earth in the surroundings, causing a large vacuum to appear. Its might was shocking, yet it wasn't trying to slap him, and it was instead grabbing onto the astral bead. He had been completely fooled. Chu Yang was toying with him like a monkey. Eastern maggot, you're really naive. With such a low IQ, I'm worried for you. Pa. Chu Yang grabbed the star bead and pulled it back. Then, He used the reincarnation gourd's soul-slaying, soul-devouring, and detaining power Upanishads to erase Baicheng's soul seal. Baicheng felt as if one of his hands had been chopped off, and he immediately lost connection with the star bead. A tearing pain also came from his head. Chu Yang's palm slapped out again. This time, it was as if a muffled thunderbolt tore through the air, and it was extremely fast. Baicheng noticed it, but he couldn't block it in time due to the tearing pain in his mind. Half of his face was smashed, and his flesh was badly mangled. Pa. Chu Yang didn't show any mercy after gaining the upper hand. He raised his hand and slapped repeatedly. Because of this, he immediately felt a great sense of danger. It was the Academy Master of the Star Do Academy. He turned his head and looked over. Don't worry, old maggot. This is just humiliation. Humiliation over and over again. If I want to kill him, I'll do it in front of you. What are you worried about? His words were shocking, and he really wouldn't stop until he scared someone to death. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Everyone from the eastern continent was shocked, and their minds buzzed. The wild dog actually dared to speak to the Academy Master of the Star Do Academy like this. He really didn't know what respect was, and he didn't know how to write the word death. The Academy Master of the Star Do Academy was definitely one of the big shots of the eastern continent. Who would dare to be disrespectful to him? The wild dog actually said that he would kill the most outstanding genius of the Star Do Academy and his disciple in front of him. Crazy, he must be crazy. Chapter 1133. Wild dog, I'll kill you. You're not worthy enough for me to kill you. The Academy Master's cold voice sounded from the direction of the demonic bell, following which the extremely dangerous aura disappeared. Chu Yang looked in that direction and sneered. I hope you can still maintain your composure later. Don't let me see the Academy Master of the Star Do Academy acting like a cornered dog. There was no reply. Instead, Baicheng's voice sounded. Wild dog, I was bitten twice by you. This will be a lifelong humiliation and a permanent stain on my life. Baicheng's entire face was mangled, and even his bones could be seen. Chu Yang's slap was so powerful that it had completely shattered the bones in his face. His entire face had caved in, and it looked extremely terrifying. Just then, Northstar's words were dripping with blood. Hurry up and treat your injuries. I'm still waiting to break your spine and trample on your dignity and pride. Eastern maggot, who are you trying to scare with that face of yours? Don't you know that I'm the creator? Baicheng's appearance was very terrifying, but Chu Yang's voice was even colder. His voice sent chills down one's spine. I'll humiliate you, but I won't kill you. What kind of contempt did Wild Dog have? What kind of self-confidence did he have? He really looked down on Northstar. Crack, crack. The Northstar's seven-wheel soul reappeared. The bones on his face reconnected. His flesh and blood wriggled and grew. At a visible speed, the mangled face was restored to its original appearance. The handsome face was once again revealed to everyone. His new skin was very white and tender, and it had a layer of luster. It was extremely dazzling, but there were many blood stains all over his body. Even his hair was stained with blood. He still looked very pathetic. Wild dog, I've been bitten twice by you. That's enough. Don't even think about biting me a third time. I promise. Baicheng spoke with determination. It was as if he was going to do it no matter what. Wait, I just hope you don't kill yourself too quickly. Chu Yang beckoned to him. Make your move. Otherwise, you'll say that I didn't give a piece of trash like you a chance to display your skills. Chu Yang would not have behaved like this if he had been slightly afraid of Baicheng. In fact, this was indeed the case. Although Baicheng was a Lamiter and possessed a star martial spirit, and his cultivation level was higher than Chu Yang's, Baicheng was still nothing in front of Chu Yang. In terms of martial souls, Baicheng was no match for him. Even Bei Qianxing couldn't compare to the third transformation of Shi Wu, Qi Soul, and Ascended Soul. In terms of the Soul Ascension Revolution, Chu Yang's Soul Ascension Revolution included the Wheel Revolution, the Chaos Revolution, and the Celestial Demon Revolution. How could Bei Qianxing compare? In addition, Chu Yang was also a divine arts practitioner and a body cultivator. Killing Bei Qianxing was a certainty. It just depended on how long Bei Qianxing could last. In this exchange, Chu Yang didn't think that Bei Qianxing was very impressive. He was indeed humiliating Bei Qianxing. He definitely wouldn't let Bei Qianxing go. Especially when Chu Yang recalled the scene where Bei Qianxing chopped off Wang Xinghuang's head. He wanted to tear Bei Qianxing apart. In the eyes of others, such humiliation was already extreme. However, to Chu Yang it was nothing. If North Star had to die, he'd die in humiliation. He'd die in humiliation. Boom! Heaven and earth shook. A star rushed out from Bei Qianxing's glabella. Endless starlight flowed down and protected him. A starry sky appeared behind him. He merged with the starry sky like an immortal king above the starry sky, overlooking the world. Chapter 1134. Bei Qianxing was determined to kill Chu Yang to wash away his shame. Therefore, without any superfluous words, the starry sky giant hand covered the sky and almost collapsed the void. The heaven and earth trembled as the power of the star martial spirit burst out. The void was one with him, vast and lofty. Starlight flickered under his feet as if he was stepping on a star, making him look like a god in the universe. With every step he took, the void would shake. There was a terrifying and mysterious rhythm in his footwork, which made the hearts of the people from the East Continent jump out. Boom! As soon as the starry sky giant hand was shattered by Chu Yang, he was like a holy spirit. His whole body shone with starlight, his black hair was messy, and his eyes were frightening. It was as if a giant monster had been awakened, full of a terrifying aura. He had the strength to pick up a mountain, and his aura was matchless. As soon as he punched, a star flickered and tore through the void. It carried a long tail of flame as it bombarded Chu Yang. Gosh, is that a shooting star? Bei Qianxing has finally activated his star martial spirit. The spectators exclaimed. The star martial spirit is incomparably vast. Even the mountain martial spirit and the sea martial spirit are no match for it. Once it's activated, the spiritual qi will form a star, which is enough to suppress a peerless expert. Many people were shocked. Bei Qianxing's strength was unimaginable. Wild dog, I'm afraid you're going to suffer this time. More than that, he has humiliated Bei Qianxing again and again. He's courting death. Wild dog won't die this time. Bei Qianxing will humiliate him no matter what. While the people from the East Continent were discussing, Chu Yang's expression didn't change. The star martial spirit was vast and powerful, but there were ways to deal with it. Rumble! A monstrous amount of spirit energy surged out like a vast ocean. Chu Yang also punched out with his fist. In an instant, everyone felt as if Chu Yang had suddenly appeared in outer space and punched the human world. Suddenly, a huge fireball rushed out. Taking a closer look, it was actually a meteorite. Its speed was extremely fast, and the air in front of it formed an arc of light. Bei Qianxing's meteorite fist. At this moment, the crowd from the Eastern Continent was once again stunned. Bei Qianxing's astral martial spirit was extremely powerful, but Chu Yang had actually used Bei Qianxing's meteorite fist. It should be noted that the meteorite fist was a gift that Bei Qianxing had given to his rival, Chu Yang, after he had been fooled by Chu Yang. If Chu Yang didn't use this fist technique to humiliate Bei Qianxing, then what was it? Nothing could express his contempt and humiliate Bei Qianxing better than this. Bei Qianxing, this is the fist technique that you gave me. What do you think of my performance? Bei Qianxing immediately gritted his teeth and activated the meteorite fist. The meteorite sped up and bloomed with hundreds of millions of rays of starlight. What was more shocking was that the meteorite changed again halfway through its flight. Its size became larger, as if it had transformed from a meteorite into a complete star. The third revolution of the Chi soul allowed one's spiritual Chi to change 3 times in an instant. The technique constructed could also change accordingly, catching people off guard. Buzz, buzz. Chu Yang's meteorite also changed. In the midst of the buzzing sound, the meteorite exploded, showing the scene of the beginning of the world. A golden celestial appeared, as if he was the first living creature born in the world. He was extremely powerful. What? Everyone from the eastern continent was shocked. Wild Dog was also a supreme realm expert. Otherwise, how could he have such a transformation technique? In this case, Eastern Wilderness 001, Eastern Wilderness 002, Eastern Wilderness 003, and Eastern Wilderness 004 were all codenames of the same person. Was this true? Chapter 1135. Bei Qianxing's expression also changed. He didn't dare to hold back and shouted, "Third transformation, stars turned to the great sun." Rumble! The void trembled, and after the endless starlight disappeared, it suddenly became incomparably dazzling. That star had turned into a huge sun, rumbling as it moved forward. Chu Yang snorted and said coldly, "Eastern maggot, let me tell you a story. Ho-E shoots the sun." The golden Deva didn't change, but a divine bow and 2 arrows appeared in his hand. The desolate demon bow, the god's arrow, and the devil's arrow. Chu Yang displayed the means of the desolate demon prince in the eastern wilderness. The desolate demon prince didn't belong to the eastern wilderness. The desolate demon bow, the god's arrow, and the devil's arrow were also not from the eastern wilderness. Bang! The golden Deva drew the bow and shot the arrow. Amidst the sound of the bowstring, the god's arrow was like a divine sword, piercing through the great sun. In an instant, the great sun was like a golden crow that had been shot. It fell from the sky and then exploded. Endless light flooded that part of the world. "Wild Dog, I'm going to smash you to death." Bei Qianxing used such means, but he was still suppressed by Chu Yang. Finally, he couldn't control himself anymore. He roared and hugged the air. A star appeared. Then, like a person throwing a stone at a dog, he threw the star at Chu Yang. Throwing stars with a raise of the hand. Such a scene was simply shocking. For a moment, everyone in the East continent was stunned. They forgot everything and were completely stunned by the scene in front of them. What was even more shocking was that Bei Qianxing had completely gone crazy. Stars condensed one by one and were constantly thrown at him. One star after another connected into a chain, and the entire void seemed to be on the verge of collapsing in an instant. If it were real stars, the void would have exploded long ago. The endless starlight shone brightly on Chu Yang. He almost couldn't open his eyes. He didn't move. There was no martial soul that he couldn't suppress. So what if it was a martial soul? Since he was going to crush Bei Qianxing, he had to crush him completely. Even a ghost would feel inferior when he saw him. After that, the people of the East continent were extremely shocked, and their eyelids twitched again and again. They saw that Chu Yang didn't need to be restrained, and he actually caught the star with his bare hands. Was he crazy? 1. Chu Yang raised both of his hands to meet the attack. Suddenly, he felt a strong force coming towards him. He suddenly shouted, "Suppress!" From his glabella, a flow of tremendous spirit fluctuated. The detaining Upanishad burst out from the reincarnation gourd, directly controlling Bei Qianxing's will. At the same time, the demon martial soul moved and completely suppressed the power of the star martial soul. As such, the power of the stars was completely controlled by Chu Yang. "Eastern maggot, if I throw a stone at you, I reckon that a lot of feces will fly out of the pit. Don't feel bad about it." Chu Yang used the 9 transformations and broke out 50,000 dragons of strength. Then, he threw the star back, which made the people dumbfounded. At this moment, Chu Yang was like a deity with infinite divine power. The light on his body was dazzling. When he caught the star and threw it back, many people of the East Continent were so shocked that they almost knelt down. Was this something that a human could do? How could this be? Bei Chengxing was also in a panic. This had never happened before. Who dared to catch the star, which was condensed by his star martial soul, with bare hands? He even threw it back. However, he didn't have time to be shocked. He quickly hugged his arms, condensed another star, and threw it out. Rumble! There was a big explosion, and heaven and earth shook. The spiritual energy fluctuations were like shock waves that rushed out and formed a fierce wind that directly blew people away. The light was extremely dazzling, and heaven and earth were incomparably bright. In that blazing light, Chu Yang threw the stars back one by one, and Bei Chengxing had no choice but to condense more stars. Then, all the stars that he madly threw out were thrown back. The people of the East Continent had never seen such an incredible scene before. They were all stunned on the spot, and they were completely speechless. Only when Chu Yang's disdainful voice entered their ears did they come back to their senses. Eastern maggot, I'm better at throwing stars than you. Change to another method. I'll crush you one by one, and it'll be convenient to tell the people of the East Continent that you're a piece of trash. I'll also tell you who's the real hero in the world, and who's the noblest in the East Continent in the Eastern Wilderness. Bei Chengxing's eyes flickered with cold light, and his face was completely distorted. He said in a gloomy voice, "Wild dog, you forced me to do this. If you die under this move, you'll have infinite glory. Let's invite Star Monarch. Let's invite Star Monarch." With these words, the Seven Wheels demon realm suddenly darkened. Day turned into night and the starry sky appeared. A vast pressure descended from the void. In the void, a supreme figure suddenly appeared. Can Bei Chengxing really invite the ruler of the starry sky, Star Monarch, out? Chapter 1136. The phantom was 1,000 feet tall, but its body was blurry and its face couldn't be seen. However, as soon as it appeared behind Bei Chengxing immediately exuded a powerful and domineering aura. His aura also increased several times. Chu Yang only felt that there was a mountain in front of him that suddenly broke out of the ground and rose with a rumble. At the same time, his shoulders sank, and an invisible force pressed down on his body, as if it was going to break his spine and flatten him. Wild dog, you're nothing in front of me. You're just a piece of shit. Kneel down. After Bei Chengxing finished speaking, a pair of boots wrapped in starlight stomped on the ground with two bangs. The originally incomparably fierce force skyrocketed again. The 1,000-foot phantom behind Bei Chengxing did the same thing as Bei Chengxing. It also took 2 steps forward, and its huge feet stomped on Chu Yang as if he were an ant. It wanted to stomp him to death. Although the phantom was blurry, when it moved its body, it shocked everyone and shook the void. When it stomped its feet, the world shook. He took 2 consecutive steps, and it seemed as if the ground was going to collapse under his feet. As soon as Bei Chengxing showed his strength, Chu Yang immediately felt a lot of pressure. However, it was just a lot. You're just an Eastern maggot, but you sound so powerful. I thought that the so-called Star Lord was very powerful. Turns out that it's just a silly big guy. The people of the East Continent were obviously very disappointed. The so-called Star Lord was the Phantom. Although it was amazing, its power was much weaker than they had imagined. Star Lords were the kings and rulers of the starry sky in ancient legends. They controlled the endless starry sky and countless stars. They were the giants of the supreme figures. Few people in the universe could be as noble as them. Star Lords were the noblest of the noblest. How dare you? Is a Star Lord someone a wild dog like you can disrespect? Chu Yang only had disdain for Bei Chengxing's anger. He said, "Eastern maggot, that's enough. Please start your performance. Beiqianxing was even more furious. Star Lords were the existences he admired. Being looked down upon by Chu Yang made him feel like a dog had peed on his head. His face was so distorted that it was frightening. Good, wild dog. If you can still stand within the range of the Big Dipper, I'll admit that I'm a maggot. If you can't, then based on your disrespect to the Star Sovereign just now, all the meridians in your body should be broken, your cultivation destroyed, and you should be killed like a dog. The Big Dipper. It's the Big Dipper steps. My God. North Star has mastered the Big Dipper steps. It's said that every step of the Big Dipper is like a star falling from the Big Dipper. It's extremely terrifying. No wonder it was so amazing just now. He has already taken 2 steps of the Big Dipper, but the wild dog is still safe and sound. This is really unexpected. After all, the wild dog suppressed the ancient demon lord on the divine steel. It's reasonable that it's so amazing. However, I think the wild dog can't resist 7 steps. When the people of the East Continent heard about the Big Dipper, they immediately burst into an uproar. Amidst their clamor, Beiqianxing took another step. With this step, Beiqianxing's aura immediately soared again. Chu Yang trembled and even found it difficult to speak. Chapter 1137. Bang! Beiqianxing took another step forward. Bang! 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 His eyes were as bright as the sun, and they were as sharp as swords. As he took step after step, his aura continued to rise, becoming more and more astonishing and vigorous. 4th step, 5th step, 6th step. When he took the 6th step, the entire space began to tremble violently. Chu Yang felt as if the power of the entire world was pressing down on him. He couldn't help but frown. He was worried that after the 7th step, there would be a great change that would catch him off guard and force him to kneel down. In order to resist Beiqianxing's pressure, the spiritual energy within his body had been greatly consumed. His body was already covered in sweat and his clothes were soaked. 7th step. North Star's eyes flashed with a cold light. Starlight wrapped around his boots, and he lifted them high. Then, 3 feet in front of Chu Yang, he stomped down. Bang! A single stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. The air in the void exploded one after another. Crack! 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 Chu Yang's joints began to emit cracking sounds. Then, under the immense pressure, he couldn't bear it any longer and was about to kneel down on the ground. The domineering power in the air became even more intense. It entered Chu Yang's body through his 3,650 pores and was about to shatter his meridians, aura, skin, flesh, tendons, and bones. It was about to cripple his cultivation and severely injure him, turning him into a complete cripple. I don't believe that you, Beiqianxing, can make me kneel down without using the divine demon martial soul. Just as Chu Yang was about to kneel down, he fiercely unleashed a great amount of mental energy. The comprehension of a rank 6 array master, the connection between the spirit stage 5th stage and the heaven and earth, and his incomparably powerful physical body were all unleashed. His right foot stepped forward and heavily stomped on the ground. Boom! With this step, his chi and blood soared into the sky like a dragon. His body erupted with dazzling light, and a light shield instantly expanded. This was the fusion of the formation and the domain. At the same time, the tiny particles of spiritual energy in Chu Yang's body suddenly shook and stirred. The invisible force that Beiqianxing had sent into his body was immediately neutralized. At this moment, he was standing on the ground in a strange posture. He was about to kneel, but he wasn't kneeling. His body was trembling, but he stood up very steadily. Beiqianxing. Chu Yang raised his head, his eyes full of ridicule, revealing a naked disdain and ridicule. This is your so-called Star Sovereign, this is your so-called 7 steps of the Big Dipper, your so-called trump card. Interesting. It actually made me sweat and I almost knelt down. As an Eastern maggot, you should be proud of yourself for being able to do this. As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Yang took a step forward. With a bang, his body suddenly straightened like a long sword that had been unsheathed. Swish! 2 rays of starlight suddenly shot out from the direction of the demonic bell. It was the dean of the Star Martial Academy. He was extremely shocked by this result. The other Martial Academy's masters were no exception. Everyone in the East Continent was deathly silent. The legendary 7 steps of the Big Dipper was only able to make the wild dog sweat and almost kneel down. They couldn't believe it. Moreover, Bai Qianxing's cultivation was higher than the wild dog's. Furthermore, the wild dog didn't even use his trump card. The moment Chu Yang straightened his body, Bai Qianxing's distorted face instantly turned red and hot. He was extremely embarrassed, as if he had done the most shameful thing in the world. He wanted to die immediately. Chapter 1138. Ever since Bai Qianxing was born, he had grown up amidst countless praises and exaggerations. He had always shocked and amazed others, and he had always been respected and revered by others. He could do whatever he wanted, kill whoever he wanted, and do whatever he wanted. He had never had to worry about anything, and no one dared to offend him because he was Bai Qianxing. Just the name Bai Qianxing was enough for him to do whatever he wanted. If he cried, everyone would cry. If he was angry, everyone would be angry. Heaven and earth had always revolved around him. Only when he met the powerful Astral Academy Master did he restrain himself slightly. However, even the Astral Academy Master was respectful towards him, especially after he comprehended the Celestial Lord Dharma idol and used the Big Dipper step. However, today, his pride, the Celestial Lord that he was most proud of, had been defeated by the wild dog that he looked down on the most. He couldn't even make the wild dog kneel down. Finally, his true nature was completely exposed. He no longer hid it and roared savagely, "Wild dog, how dare you offend me? I want you dead." Hearing this, Chu Yang sneered again and again. "Eastern maggot, who are you trying to show that I'm very angry? You're just a maggot. I can crush you to death with a lift of my hand. If I didn't want to humiliate you to the point of suicide, do you think you would still be standing here and shouting at me? Wild dog, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you." Bai Qianxing had completely lost his mind. His eyes turned scarlet as if he had turned into a demon. However, the aura that he exuded from his rage made everyone from the East Continent tremble. "It's really ugly." Chu Yang felt even more disdain in his heart. He shook his head and said, "Eastern maggot, since you don't want to kill yourself, you still have some tricks up your sleeve. Please continue your ugly performance. Desolate dog, die for me. Rumble." As Bai Qianxing screamed at the top of his lungs, the void rumbled and trembled violently. Boundless starlight appeared from the void and dyed the entire world into a boundless starry sky. The 300-meter-tall star venerate dermic idol behind him suddenly disappeared. However, in just an instant, the shadow of a child appeared in the void. It carried a terrifying pressure that even a Nirvana realm expert could not withstand. It stepped out of the void and appeared behind Bai Qianxing again. At this moment, the illusory image of the child was much smaller in size, but it was much more majestic and clearer than the previous illusory image. In the illusory face, 2 eyes appeared. One of them was like the moon and the other was like the sun. Then, the sun and moon transformed into a vast starry sky. Countless stars appeared, and there were even tens of thousands of rays of starlight blossoming from them. Kaka. The child's eyes stared at Chu Yang. Immediately, cracking sounds came from his body. An invisible force caused him to break out in cold sweat. He couldn't control himself and was about to kneel down. However, the formation flags in his body trembled and cancelled it out. For a mere child to have such great strength, it was a little strange. What is this? It's just a child's glare, but I feel like my soul is about to scatter. Chu Yang was shocked. The 6 great academies of the Eastern continent were indeed extraordinary. Just this Beiqianxing alone was already so strange and shocking. This was just the tip of the iceberg of the Star Do Academy. However, he also realized how shocking the Supreme Demon Sovereign was. With just a wave of flags, he was able to eliminate this strange and terrifying power. Rumble, the sound of raging waves came from the void. It was as if a child had stepped out of an endless sea and stepped onto the shore. Boundless power of the stars was also emitted. It was so intense that it sent many of the spectators flying. When a star venerate kneels, a mountain collapses. In the midst of his madness, Beiqianxing stared at Chu Yang with his scarlet eyes. He suddenly knelt down and kowtowed to Chu Yang. However, his movements were extremely difficult. It was as if there was an invisible force stopping him. At this moment, in the direction of the demonic bell, except for the Academy Master of the Star Do Academy, the Academy Masters of the 5 great academies suddenly cried out in shock. The 7 kneels of a star venerate. Their voices were trembling slightly. What kind of thing could make them so shocked? Chapter 1139. Heavens, the 7 kneels of the Celestial Lords. It's actually the legendary 7 kneels of the Celestial Lords? However, the doubt only lasted for an instant. Immediately, an old man among the crowd trembled and cried out in surprise. This made those who were puzzled deeply realize that the 7 kneels of the Celestial Lords was absolutely shocking and incomparably terrifying. Could it be the 7 kneels of the Celestial Lords mentioned in the ancient books? It actually exists. Another person cried out in disbelief. From that trembling voice, one could clearly see his trembling appearance and hear the sound of his teeth chattering. I remember now. The founder of the Star Do Academy once used it. Rumor has it that he once used the 7 kneels of the Celestial Lords to kill countless demons from beyond the heavens. With just one kneel, the demons from beyond the heavens instantly collapsed and died an unnatural death. Not even a speck of dust was left. All of them turned into flying ashes. This is a secret and also a legend. Back then, the demons from beyond the heavens invaded the Eastern continent and massacred the Eastern continent. When the first Academy Master of the Star Do Academy appeared, he actually didn't kneel. He only knelt halfway, and the heavens collapsed and the earth cracked. The demons from beyond the heavens were all turned into flying ashes. There were very few people who knew such a secret. All of the people who spoke were old men. They weren't sure about this matter, but seeing Beiqianxing use the 7 kneels of the Celestial Lords and hearing the shock of the Academy Masters of the 5 great academies, how could they not know if it was true or not? They never thought that such an illusory thing was actually true. They were all inexplicably shocked. Swoosh! Swoosh! The Academy Masters of the 5 great academies actually abandoned the demonic bell and flew over. The Academy Master of the Star Do Academy also followed with a worried expression. Mo Longzi of the 10,000 Demon Sect, who had been hiding in the dark, hoping to launch a sneak attack and snatch the demonic bell, also revealed himself at this moment. Beiqianxing, that idiot, actually grasped the 7 kneels of the Celestial Lords. How is this possible? Li Xingsan also couldn't believe it at this moment. His pupils shook. Su Yiling and Feng Polong beside him were all the same. The 7 kneels of the Celestial Lords was too shocking. None of them had expected that Beiqianxing would actually master such a supreme secret technique. The 7 kneels of the Star Sovereign had 7 styles. The first kneel caused the mountains to crumble, the second kneel caused the seas to dry up, the third kneel caused the earth to crumble, the fourth kneel caused the sky to collapse, the fifth kneel caused the moon to fall, the fifth kneel caused the sun to fall, and the 7th kneel caused the stars to fall. Among the 7 kneels, there were star venerates of different stages. The first kneel was mountain collapse. The one kneeling was a child star venerate. Hence, it was only mountain collapse. The second kneel was for young celestial sovereigns. The third kneel was for young celestial sovereigns. After that was the celestial sovereigns who had become rulers of the universe. Celestial monarchs were the rulers of the starry skies, the most supreme of celestial monarchs. They were one of the most supreme existences in the world. Such an existence would only be bowed to by others, not to others. If he knelt, who would be able to endure it? How could heaven and earth allow this? How could the great Tao that operated in the unseen world allow this to happen? Celestial monarchs obtained the recognition of heaven and earth, as well as the recognition of the supreme great Tao. Only then would they be able to ascend to a supreme position. Disrespecting a celestial monarch was disrespecting heaven and earth, and disrespecting the great Tao. Thus, in order to receive a celestial monarch's kowtow, one had to at least have a great fate, a great fortune, or a supreme status that was comparable to a celestial monarch. Otherwise, if the earth wanted to destroy you, if the heavens wanted to kill you, your soul would immediately scatter and turn into ashes. You would be deader than dead. This was very simple to understand. A real man would only kneel to the heavens, earth, and parents. There was gold under his knees, so why would he kneel to others? Chapter 1140. The Seven Kneels of the Celestial Lord. Bei Qianxing has mastered such a supreme, secret technique. Chu Yang's heart trembled and his scalp went numb. If he accepted such a kneel, he was afraid that he would be turned into ashes. This could be seen when Bei Qianxing knelt before Chu Yang with great difficulty. At this moment, Bei Qianxing's body was trembling violently, as if something was stopping him from kneeling. No, I can't accept this kneel. I have to stop Bei Qianxing. Chu Yang immediately wanted to make a move, but when he saw the 6 old bastards, his thoughts immediately disappeared. If I can't accept this kneel, how can I intimidate these 6 old bastards? How can I intimidate the East Continent and boost the reputation of the Eastern Wilderness? This was a great crisis but also a great opportunity. If the 6 old bastards of the 6 great schools made a move, they would definitely not be inferior to Bei Qianxing. He could stop Bei Qianxing, but could he stop the 6 old bastards? Also, there were so many people in the East Continent. If you want to kneel, I'll let you kneel. Let's see if I can accept it. After thinking intensely for a while, Chu Yang immediately made a decision without any hesitation. From now on, he would trample on the arrogance of the entire East Continent and make them lower their proud heads. So what if you're a celestial lord? If you stop me, I'll still kill you. Eastern maggot, do your best. I'll wait for your performance. Chu Yang's expression didn't change, and he didn't move. His tone was very sarcastic, which shocked the 6 great schools and everyone in the East Continent. They couldn't help but look at him in surprise. Even Wang Bushong, who was behind him, looked at him with some astonishment. What are you looking at? Chu Yang sneered. He clasped his hands behind his back and swept his gaze across the audience. I can tell you clearly that all of you here are trash. None of you kneel down, and I can't bear it. Buzz, buzz. The gazes of the headmasters of the 6 great academies suddenly became extremely sharp, as if they wanted to see through Chu Yang to see what he was relying on. They didn't say anything, but many people in the East Continent couldn't stand such arrogant words. Wild dog, you sure talk big. When a star venerate kneels, the world will collapse. Who do you think you are? To think that you dare to say such big words. You really don't know what you're talking about. You're extremely ignorant. You actually dare to look down on a star sovereign. Why are you talking about this wild dog? He'll know what's good for him later. That's right. Even the little wild dog behind him knows how powerful he is, but this wild dog still doesn't know what's good for him. Hearing this, Wang Bushong's face suddenly turned hot. He felt very guilty and whispered to Chu Yang, I'm sorry, uncle. I've embarrassed you. How could he be blamed for this? Chu Yang turned his head and said, Look carefully. After seeing Uncle's power today, you don't have to look at these Eastern maggots. Just look at them with the corner of your eyes. Crack. Suddenly, the sound of bones cracking came from Beiqianxing, which attracted the attention of all the people in the East Continent and extinguished their anger. Then they saw that Beiqianxing finally knelt down to Chu Yang. Boom. As Beiqianxing moved, the shadow behind him, the child, also knelt down. Suddenly the earth trembled. The moment the child knelt down, the people on Beiqianxing's left and right sides, who were some distance away from him, immediately let out shrill screams. As if they had been torn apart, they bled and rolled on the ground in pain. Chapter 1141. How horrifying was this! There was a distance between Shao Chen and Shao Chen. When Shao Chen knelt, he would be affected. Chu Yang's eyelids twitched wildly. This 7 kneels of a star venerate was truly horrifying. If this was already the case for others, what kind of horror would Shao Chen have to endure? Rumble. At the same time, the ground around Beiqianxing cracked. A terrifying crack tore through the ground to Chu Yang's feet. It was like the world was collapsing. Space crazily pressed down on Shao Chen. The pressure from all directions made him feel like he was being shoved under the sea. Rumble. Not only that, but boundless thunder and lightning also appeared in the air, striking down. Bang! Flames also burst out of the ground. Furthermore, thin threads pierced through the air from all directions. This was the manifestation of the great Tao's laws. The heavenly lightning struck Shao Chen, the earthly fire wanted to burn him, and the great Tao's laws wanted to obliterate him. At this moment, Chu Yang accepted the star venerate's kneel. Heaven would not tolerate the earth. The great Tao wanted to kill him. The will of heaven was like a saber, wanting to kill Shao Chen's body and soul. Chu Yang felt startled. This was simply unimaginably horrifying. However, he did not fear it. If it were a real star venerate, it would be fine. However, it was just Beiqianxing, the beast who chopped off Wang Xinghuang's head with one saber strike. How could Chu Yang not accept his kneel? If so, if heaven wants to kill me, I will destroy heaven. If the earth destroys me, I will destroy the earth. Chu Yang reared his head and roared, I am the demon, the supreme true demon. There is no need to fear the ancestral technique. There is no need to fear the world. The great Tao is bullshit. The one I respect is noble, and the one I respect is lowly. So what if there are star venerates? Letting you kneel is already giving you face. Rumble. Shao Chen drove the formation flags with all his might. Spiritual energy surged and soared into the sky, connecting with the demonic bell. Shao Chen was the demonic bell, and the demonic bell was Shao Chen. Dang, dang, dang. Melodious bell sounds came from Shao Chen's body, forming ripples in the air that spread out. The demonic spirit, the physical spirit, the central physical spirit, and the elite physical spirit appeared. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The void buzzed, and his body also shook, resonating with a certain frequency with the corpse of the supreme demon venerable. Then, from his body, a supreme phantom appeared, but it was hidden by Chu Yang as soon as it appeared. At this moment, the entire Seven Wheels demon region seemed to be his domain, his world. He was the genius, the land, the supreme great Tao, the supreme ruler of this place. Endless demonic might also erupted from his body, sweeping out in all directions like waves. It was boundless, drowning everything. The earthly fire was extinguished, and the heavenly thunder was extinguished. The rules of the great Tao disappeared into nothingness. Heaven and earth submitted, and the great Tao lost its voice. In the face of such demonic might, the people from the East Continent unconsciously knelt down and kowtowed to Chu Yang. The fissure in the ground also closed up in an instant, without any trace of cracking. Although the headmasters of the 6 great academies didn't kneel down, they were completely dumbfounded. Crack! Li Xingsan, Feng Polong, and Su Yiling all knelt down. When the 3 of them suddenly woke up, they struggled to stand up, but it was extremely difficult. They suddenly exerted their strength, and the sound of bones immediately came from their bodies. It was extremely difficult for them to stand up. They were extremely shocked and looked at Chu Yang in disbelief. His long hair fluttered in the air like a god or a demon. Slap! Chu Yang raised his hand and slapped Beiqianxing, forming a big handprint that sent Beiqianxing flying. You are not worthy of kneeling to me. So what if you are a star venerate? If you dare to go against me, I will still slap you and kill you. Slap! Chapter 1142. The world was dead silent. There was no sound at all. Everyone seemed to have stopped breathing. Wild Dog had withstood the first of the 7 kneels of Lord Tai Bai Jinxing. He had even destroyed and erased the shadow that represented Lord Tai Bai Jinxing. How was this possible? How was this possible? No one could believe it. Even the headmasters of the 6 great academies didn't know what had happened, let alone the others. Beiqianxing was sent flying. His life wasn't in danger, but half of his face was smashed. At this moment, he didn't feel anything. He looked at Chu Yang in a daze, completely lost. Eastern Maggot, why are you stunned? Is this rare? I invite you to continue your performance, Chu Yang said. At this moment, it was as if God had spoken. His voice rumbled in everyone's heart and woke them up. Is this true? Wild Dog. No, Eastern Wilderness 002 can actually withstand the kneel of Lord Tai Bai Jinxing. Is his status as noble as Lord Tai Bai Jinxing, or even nobler? There were already people in the East Continent who didn't dare to call Chu Yang Wild Dog. That's not the problem now. The problem now is everything that just happened real? Is it our illusion? Maybe it's possible. I'm in a dream now. I can't tell whether it's real or not. Wang Bushong, who was on Chu Yang's back, looked at the people of the East Continent. They were all shocked and dumbfounded. Their funny looks made him feel proud. Uncle is really powerful. Eastern Maggot is all scared out of his wit. He didn't know how powerful the 7 kneels of Lord Tai Bai Jinxing were, but he knew that it was extremely powerful. Only the so-called Lord Tai Bai Jinxing was helpless against his uncle. Slap! Chu Yang raised his hand and slapped Beiqianxing again. Eastern Maggot, wake up. Don't waste my time. Polaris's face had been smashed into a pulp. This was the 2nd time his face had been beaten to a pulp. It was a terrifying sight to behold. He was finally awakened by the slap. Wild Dog, this is only the first move of Star-Lord's 7 kneels, the weakest move. Do you think you're amazing just because you can block it? Do you think you're more noble than Star-Lord? His face was ferocious and twisted as he roared with all his might. Blood flowed out even more fiercely from his mangled face, and some even spurted out. The wriggling of his flesh and blood made his face look even more terrifying. However, he was quickly recovering. In the instant he roared, his face recovered. It was as fair and handsome as before, but also as twisted and ferocious as before. So, you can continue. Show me all your nobility and pride. Chu Yang laughed coldly. He then looked at the headmasters of the 6 great academies. 6 old bastards, you guys are also very surprised, right? But let me ask you to calm down. The more surprising part is yet to come. After all, this behavior doesn't match your previous arrogance at all. Buzz buzz buzz. The headmasters of the 6 great academies were all enraged. The void trembled because of this, and killing intent swept over like a tide. Chu Yang's eyes narrowed. Do you want to continue watching the show, or do you want to show your ugly side in advance? I'm actually looking forward to your performance. Wild Dog, who are you provoking? Beiqianxing roared. The sound wave was like a cannonball, directly charging toward Chu Yang. However, just as it reached Chu Yang, it disappeared silently. At this moment, to Chu Yang, the 7 demonic domains were his domain. Rumble. 7 kneels of Lord Tai Bai Jinxing, see withering. Chapter 1143. Bang, bang, bang. In the blink of an eye, North Star's clothes were shredded to pieces, and his flesh and blood exploded out in all directions. Blood sprayed everywhere, but he still knelt down. The young man behind him also knelt down. However, nothing happened. He knelt down to Chu Yang, and for the first time it was as if the sky was falling and the earth was cracking. However, this time, he was like a servant kneeling down to his master. Nothing strange happened, and there were no signs of destruction. This is impossible. Bei Chengxing roared, stood up, and then knelt down again. 7 kneels, earth destruction. 7 kneels, sky collapse. 7 kneels, moon fall. 7 kneels, sun fall. 7 kneels, star fall. North Star used the 7 kneels of the celestial monarch. In the end, his body cracked and cracked, as if he were about to disintegrate. But despite the heavy price he paid, nothing happened. How can this be? How is this possible? Star-Lord is the supreme ruler of the starry sky. How can a mere wild dog have the fortune to receive one of his kneels? After the last kneel, Bei Chengxing raised his head from the ground and roared at the sky. The eyes of the heads of the 6 great academies were trembling as they wondered, what exactly is this wild dog relying on? Or is this wild dog an extremely shocking and noble identity? If it was the latter, the 6 of them couldn't imagine the consequences. As for the people in the East Continent, they were completely silent. The legendary 7 kneels of Star-Lord was only a half kneel, and the demons from outer space fell one after another and turned into ashes. However, it was useless against the wild dog. They couldn't understand, so they were even more afraid and in awe of Chu Yang. Eastern Maggot, I said that you are a piece of trash. Do you still have any objections? Only Bei Chengxing and a few others found Chu Yang's words extremely harsh and unacceptable. However, for most people in the East Continent this was the truth. Others were not qualified to say that Bei Chengxing was a piece of trash, but Chu Yang was. Wild dog bullshit. Bei Chengxing could only roar and go crazy. He could not accept such a cruel reality. Chu Yang looked at him coldly. What other tricks do you have? You can use them now. Otherwise, I'll kill you and take your head to tell the undead. What other tricks did he have? Chu Yang did not make a move. Bei Chengxing thought about it, but there was nothing he could do. He used the 7 kneels of Star-Lord again. His body exploded continuously, and even his broken bones were blown out. However, just like before, nothing happened. This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Could it be that a wild dog is nobler than a Star-Lord? Bei Chengxing was on the verge of going crazy. Idiot, the 7 kneels of the Star Sovereign is not invincible. The Academy Master of the Star Do Academy was afraid that Bei Chengxing would be completely crippled by his inner demons. He comforted Bei Chengxing warmly. Wild dog has something to rely on, but you haven't discovered it yet. Also, you are still forcing yourself to use the 7 kneels of the Star Sovereign. You are not able to use the full power of the 7 kneels of the Star Sovereign. Even if Bei Chengxing could use the true power of the 7 kneels of the Star Sovereign, so what? It would be useless. Chu Yang was currently the ruler of the 7 demonic realms. How could an existence like the Supreme Demon Venerate be weaker than a so-called Star Lord? Chapter 1144. The Academy Master was so angry that his face was trembling. His cold eyes were like a tiger staring at a lamb. Wild dog, you're very shocking, but you're also very stupid. You shouldn't have revealed your fangs and sharp claws. That will only make you die faster. Old bastard, are you finally going to act out of desperation? Then, Chu Yang corrected him. No, you're not even a dog. You're just a maggot. Cornered dog will jump over the wall, but a maggot will never be able to jump out of a cesspit. Chu Yang said, a dog can jump out of a wall, but a maggot can never jump out of a cesspit. Everyone was stunned. Chu Yang didn't even put the Academy Master of the Star Do Academy in his eyes. Chu Yang wasn't the only one who understood the Academy Master's intentions. Everyone else understood as well. He wanted to kill Chu Yang. The Academy Master's voice became even colder. If I want to kill a dog like you, it'll be as easy as flicking my finger. Ha ha. Chu Yang laughed loudly. Old bastard, you're really boasting shamelessly. I'll kill the geniuses of your Star Do Academy and your disciples first, then I'll talk nonsense with you. Swish. The headmaster of the Star Battle Academy reacted quickly. Before Chu Yang had even finished speaking, the headmaster had appeared in front of Bei Chen Xing in a flash, shielding him from harm. Wild dog, you're about to die, but you still don't know what's good for you. How dare you spout nonsense in front of me? I really can't forgive you. Ha ha! Chu Yang pointed at the Academy Master and laughed. Old bastard, can you stop me if I want to kill someone? His lips curled into a strange smile as he mocked. Also, I'm very curious if you dare to stop me. Swish. At this moment, a figure suddenly flew over from afar. It appeared in a flash and immediately merged with Chu Yang. Rumble. Immediately after, countless bolts of lightning emerged from the void and descended on Chu Yang as a punishment. The lightning punishment fell down like a giant axe, shaking heaven and earth. Thunder rumbled, and the lightning radiance was dazzling, illuminating the surroundings. Chu Yang's divine avatar returned. Before he went to the battle alone, he had already used the divine abilities of the God-Devil twins. One of them entered the Heaven-Rush soul of the Supreme Devil Lord, while the other entered the Spiritual Wisdom soul. The divine avatar and the demonic avatar could help Chu Yang cultivate. One could cultivate the Heaven-Rush soul and the other could cultivate the Spiritual Wisdom soul. The difference was that the divine avatar that went to Heaven Chong Po could do as he pleased. As for the demonic avatar, because the 6 great academies and the people of the East Continent were gathered here, he had to be careful. Therefore, Heaven Chong Po was the first to succeed. His return immediately triggered a lightning punishment. Chu Yang had already gotten used to the thunder punishment after experiencing the first 5 spirits. He was able to deal with it easily. However, the faces of the headmasters of the 6 great academies, as well as those from the East Continent, changed. Tap. Chu Yang pressed forward and laughed. Old bastard, I'm going to kill your disciple now. Do you dare to stop me? Whoosh. The headmaster of the Star Do Academy hurriedly retreated. He didn't dare to let Chu Yang get close to him. If he triggered a lightning punishment, he would definitely die. The higher one's cultivation level, the more sensitive the lightning punishment would be, and the more terrifying the lightning punishment would be. He was even glad that he had helped Bei Chenxing find a treasure that could avoid lightning strikes in order to deal with the wild dog. He still had a few treasures on him. Otherwise, if he didn't have such a treasure to protect himself, he would have been swept into Chu Yang's lightning punishment. The other headmasters of the 5 great academies also changed their expressions and dodged. The wild dog had come prepared. Teacher! As Chu Yang approached, Bei Chenxing screamed in fear. Scream, scream, tell your teacher to save you. Bang! Chu Yang flashed and appeared in front of Bei Chenxing. However, he didn't kill him immediately. Instead, he stepped on his chest and stomped him to the ground. Then, he said to the headmasters of the 6 great academies and everyone from the East Continent, If I want to kill someone, who can stop me? Who dares to stop me? If you have the guts, come out now. I'll announce that there's no one in the East Continent. His voice wasn't loud, but it was very loud. It was like a slap to everyone's face in the East Continent. That's right, Chu Yang wanted to slap their faces. Killing Bei Chenxing wasn't enough to comfort the souls of the dead. It wasn't enough to give the child on his back an explanation. It wasn't enough to give the child on his back hope, and it wasn't enough to tell him that the East Continent wasn't a big deal. Therefore, he mocked everyone. Therefore, he provoked them. Therefore, he unscrupulously stepped on the faces of the headmasters of the 6 great academies, and everyone present in the East Continent. He would trample on them in front of them, trample on them until they had no face left. He would trample on all of their prestige, all of their dignity, all of their pride, and all of their arrogance. He swore to sweep away all of their dignity and bring glory to the Eastern Barren Territory. Let's see, after today, who would dare to call the people of the Eastern Wilderness a wild dog. Chu Yang naturally knew what he would face if he humiliated and provoked them to the extreme. It would be a crazy counterattack. The endless madness of the 6 great academies and the endless madness of the people of the East Continent. Chapter 1145. There was no one in the East Continent. These words pierced the hearts of everyone in the East Continent. The more they looked down on the Eastern Wilderness, the more hurt they felt, and the more humiliated they felt. The most embarrassed and awkward person was naturally the Academy Master of the Star Academy. The wild dog had actually shouted at him. Did he dare to save Beichengxing? If there was no response, where would he put his face? However, he really didn't dare to. The wild dog was nothing to be feared, but the heaven's might was. The 7 Neils of the Starry Monarch. No matter how great the heaven's fate was, no matter how great the earth's might was, they would all be reduced to ashes. How could the heaven's might be any weaker than this? The wild dog was currently undergoing a tribulation. If anyone dared to intervene, it would be tantamount to challenging the heaven's might. They would definitely be punished. Even the Academy Master of the Star Academy would be powerless. He was much stronger than the wild dog, but he was still an ant in front of the heaven's might. He still had to tremble in fear and tread on thin ice. The other Academy Masters of the other 5 academies also had ugly expressions. They had all been slapped in the face by the wild dog. There was no one in the East Continent who would dare to save them. This was also a challenge to them. You better think carefully. What will the consequences be if you act ruthlessly? The Academy Master of the Star Academy didn't even dare to say the words, wild dog, out loud. He had to compromise, sullen, and humiliated to the extreme. He was an Academy Master with an honorable status. Who would dare to be impudent in front of him? However, he had no choice but to speak nicely to a wild dog and state the pros and cons clearly. When Chu Yang heard this, he immediately used his actions to answer. He exerted force with his foot and stomped down on Beichengxing's chest, causing it to cave in. At the same time, spiritual qi surged out from his calf and transformed into 2 arms. He grabbed Beichengxing's hair with one hand and sliced off Beichengxing's head with the other. He then raised his hand and sucked, and Beichengxing's head was lifted into his hand. Drip, drip, drip. Chu Yang said coldly, "Old bastard, I was asking you, do you dare to come and save me? I'm humiliating you, but you don't know your place. Since you dare to threaten me, I'll give you a clear answer. Are you satisfied now?" He then added, "Now, can you throw a tantrum, you old bastard?" While they were talking, Chu Yang silently used the reincarnation gourd to collect Beichengxing's soul. In an instant, Beichengxing's star martial soul, 7 Neils of Star Lords, and other secret skills of Star Palace were analyzed by the reincarnation gourd. A huge amount of information poured into his mind. With a slight movement, he visualized the star martial spirit. In an instant, his whole body shone with starlight. His eyes turned into an endless starry sky. Endless starlight bloomed, as if he was a celestial being. However, not many people were paying attention to this. Their attention was completely focused on the fact that Chu Yang had killed Beichengxing and provoked the Academy Master of the Star Do Academy. Are you satisfied now? Old bastard, you can get angry too? These 2 sentences were too mocking and too arrogant. The Academy Master couldn't take it anymore. The wild dog had already forced the Star Academy Lord into a corner, and everyone's breathing had become extremely ragged. A storm was about to descend. However, the storm that everyone was expecting didn't arrive. The instant Bei Chenxing was killed, the Academy Master was stunned. He stared at Bei Chenxing's head in disbelief. He was flabbergasted by this outcome. Even now, he still couldn't believe that this was real. Chapter 1146. Chu Yang couldn't be bothered with the old bastard's disbelief. How much did he despise the people of the eastern wilderness? How much did he despise himself for having such a reaction? He raised Bei Chenxing's head high up and roared, "Wang Xinghuang, brother Wang, you died because of me. Today, I'll take your head to avenge you and comfort your soul in heaven. I'll take care of your son, and I'll fulfill your dying wish. One day we'll make sure that no one in the eastern continent dares to call us wild dog, and no one will dare to slaughter us like pigs and dogs." At this moment, the regret in Chu Yang's heart was magnified. Killing people couldn't bring the dead back to life, and he couldn't let his son have a father again. He couldn't let his son have the memories and happiness of his father. He was also venting his anger, his monstrous anger. When an ordinary man was angry, blood would splatter 5 steps away. His blood was boiling, and he wasn't afraid of being surrounded by enemies. He wasn't even afraid of death. Even if the Heavenly Emperor came personally, the butcher's knife in his hand would still be sharp. Wild dog, the Star Academy Master was fuming with anger. The veins on his face were throbbing, and he was so angry that his teeth were chattering. Chu Yang sneered. "So, old bastard, you can get angry too. Wild dog, you'll definitely pay the price." The Star Academy Master's murky eyes looked as if he could eat someone alive. Chu Yang wasn't afraid. He said mockingly, "Old bastard, you're as ugly as your disciple right now. So, I'll give you a word of advice. Please start your performance. The Star Academy can't be humiliated. Wild dog, hand over your life." A furious roar erupted as an elderly figure darted out from behind the Astral Star Academy's Academy Master. He immediately knelt down and kowtowed to Chu Yang 7 consecutive times. First kneel of a Star Lord, landslide. Second kneel of a Star Lord, withered sea. Third kneel of a Star Lord, earth destruction. Fourth kneel of a Star Lord, sky collapse. The Celestial Lord Dharma idols, which were children, teenagers, young men, and the phantoms of those who had ascended to the throne, appeared one after another. They also knelt down and kowtowed to Chu Yang. Compared to Bei Chenxing, the old man's 7 kneels of Star Lord was on a completely different level. The Star Lord's Dharma form was much clearer, and the facial features were almost completely revealed. One could almost see the Star Lord's face clearly. His attack was very sudden. In addition, he did not suffer the backlash of the 7 kneels of the Star Venerates. After the 7 kneels, he was not injured. However, accompanied by the sound of rolling thunder, although the sky and earth behind the old man were turned upside down and the scene was shocking, after Chu Yang knelt down, it had no effect. Not even a trace of wind was produced by Chu Yang. Rumble. On the other hand, when the old man attacked Chu Yang, he was immediately drawn into the lightning tribulation. The lightning tribulation struck down and drowned him. The sage's lightning tribulation didn't take long before he was turned into a pile of charcoal. He was not afraid of death, but it was useless, he would die in vain. Hiss. At this moment, many people in the East Continent couldn't help but gasp. It was actually useless. How shocking was the wild dog! Perhaps it could be seen just by looking at the lightning tribulation. Although they were both in different realms, the old man's lightning tribulation was more terrifying, and his strength was also more terrifying. However, the results were worlds apart. Chu Yang was safe and sound in the lightning tribulation, but the old man died an unnatural death not long after facing the lightning tribulation. One was heaven, one was earth. The strong contrast and huge impact instantly made everyone realize how shocking and terrifying the wild dog was. Generally speaking, when a cultivator was in the middle of a lightning tribulation, it was extremely difficult and dangerous to resist the lightning tribulation. How could they be distracted? How could they make use of the lightning tribulation to kill people? If they were not careful, they would directly turn into ashes. Being able to deal with the lightning tribulation as easily as drinking water was rare in the world. The wild dog was clearly a special case. He was a great evildoer. Chapter 1147. Clap clap. Applause rang out. Chu Yang applauded and cheered. What an exciting performance. Old bastard, you've let me see a very exciting performance. It was not enough that 7 Niels had suffered once. He actually wanted to use such a supreme secret technique to deal with him. It was simply laughable. The supreme demon venerable was not inferior to a star venerable. Within the supreme demon venerable's corpse, Chu Yang was the heaven and earth here. With the supreme demon venerable's prestige, how could the 7 Niels incite the wrath of heaven and earth and attract the slaughter of heaven and earth? This was like 2 generals. One general's servant actually used the general's prestige to cause trouble in the other general's residence. What could happen? The 6 great academies were completely speechless. The East Continent was completely speechless. No one replied because no one could do anything to this wild dog. The elder from the Star Do Academy had not hesitated to use the 7 Niels of the Star Do Academy, but he still could not do anything to the wild dog. What else could be more powerful than the 7 Niels of the Star Do Academy? Without complete confidence, who would dare to make a move? Chu Yang saw everything and sneered in his heart. If they knew the real reason, they would definitely not be so wary of him. It was just a pity. Old bastard! He first pointed at the Academy Master of the Star Do Academy. Then, he pointed at the remaining Academy Masters of the 5 academies one by one. And you 5 old bastards, I invite you to continue your performance. When one had the upper hand, one had to bully others. There would not be many opportunities like this. How could Chu Yang let go of this opportunity? Only in this way would he appear more confident by being more arrogant. This would make the other party feel more wary, and he would be safer. Why is there no sound? Chu Yang became even more cynical and provoked everyone. Is the East Continent full of cowards who are afraid of death? Let me remind you that if you all swarm me, a mere wild dog like me will probably die. You need to be clear about this. Therefore, now is the time for you to sacrifice yourselves. For the nobility of the East Continent, for the glory of the East Continent, I invite all of you to sacrifice yourselves. The people of the East Continent will definitely remember all of you. You will be immortalized for eternity. How ironic and how bitter it was. But the situation was stronger than the person. No one in the East Continent made a sound. It was dead silent. The headmasters of the 6 great academies might be able to find a reason. Wild Dog was too strange, and they must not fall for his provocation and die in vain. It was like they were pissed on by a wild dog, but they were afraid of the strangeness of the wild dog and did not dare to kill it. In their opinion, this dog had already become a demon. Before they could figure out the details of this demon, they would not easily make a move. However, anyone could imagine how they felt inside. As the leader of the 6 great academies, he was actually being played around with by the wild dog and humiliated in such a way. Yet, he didn't even make a reasonable counterattack. His face was completely lost, and his old skin was ripped off. He was going to become a laughingstock. Is this how the East Continent behaves? Is this how arrogant you are? How dare you put on airs in front of us? Who are you calling wild dog? Are you qualified? Today, I challenged the 6 great academies alone and suppressed all of you in the East Continent. The funny thing is that no one in the East Continent has the guts to stand out. You are all spineless. Bah. Chu Yang spat and continued, since that's the case, you're all cowards. So, you'll have to bear with it. You'll have to submit to me. I'm ordering you now. He suddenly pointed at Li Xingsan. Hand over that maggot to me. Let him kneel down and kowtow to me, then kill himself. Hearing this, Li Xingsan's whole body stiffened. He was extremely frightened and his expression changed greatly. But it was only for a moment and it all disappeared. However, all kinds of things were caught by Chu Yang. In an instant, Li Xingsan hated in his heart. Damn Bai Qianxing, you idiot! If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been targeted by the wild dog. However, if it wasn't him, who else could it be? He was even more contemptuous of Chu Yang than Bai Qianxing. His discrimination and malice towards him were even greater, and he was extremely humiliating. He was already on Chu Yang's death list. At this moment, the dean of the Myriad Court's face turned gloomy. Is Li Xingsan going to follow in Bai Xing's footsteps? Is the Myriad Court going to follow in the footsteps of the Star Battle Academy and become the biggest joke in the East Continent? Chapter 1148. However, how could he escape after being called out by the wild dog? If he didn't respond, he would also lose face, and he would lose even more face than the Star Do Academy. Does this wild dog have some kind of trump card, or is he simply not afraid of death? That's why he dares to bark like that? The Academy Master of the Myriad Courtyard was caught in a dilemma. His heart was filled with haze, but he didn't have much of a choice. He was about to transmit his voice to Li Xingsan when he realized that there was no need for that. Li Xingsan was very clear on what to do after being targeted by the wild dog. He had already stepped forward. Wild dog, do you really think that no one in the Eastern Continent can control you? Li Xingsan said disdainfully, don't be too naive. No one would be angry with a mad dog, and they wouldn't exchange their life for a dog's. Chu Yang hated people like Li Xingsan the most. He didn't say much and only coldly said, please start your performance. Although this sentence was no longer fresh and had lost its excitement, he couldn't be bothered to come up with a new one. He had humiliated the Eastern Continent enough, and it was time for him to escape. Ha ha! Li Xingsan laughed. Wild dog, you really don't know what you're talking about, and you really think highly of yourself. Do you really think that you're the only one who doesn't fear the lightning tribulation? After a pause, he mocked. Or do you think that I'm that trash Bai Qianxing? At first, when Li Xingsan was suddenly called out, he was very frightened. But now, he was extremely arrogant. Such a change made Chu Yang squint his eyes slightly. Then, he applauded and praised, Maggot Dong, not bad. Your words about Bai Qianxing being trash have a lot of meaning. Chu Yang looked at Li Xingsan mockingly. Are you trying to tell me that I can drive a wedge between the Myriad Courtyard and the Star Do Academy by keeping you alive? I refuse. He rubbed his chin, shook his head, and said, but I don't need such a big trick to clean up 2 feces pits, so I'm very sorry. When the people from the East Continent heard this, they immediately felt a strange sensation in their hearts. The dignified all-creations child of the Nature Department was actually so terrified that he was begging for mercy in disguise? Although it was silent, Li Xingsan could feel everyone's strange gazes. He said calmly, Wild dog, your intentions are really vicious. Do you think you can drive a wedge between our 2 courtyards? You are too naive. Chu Yang did not say a word and turned on the spectator mode. Li Xingsan couldn't find an opponent all of a sudden. It was as if he had used all his strength to punch empty air. It was very uncomfortable. Wild dog, didn't you want me to kneel down and kowtow to you? Come on, do you have the ability to make me kneel down? After this sentence, Chu Yang did not reply, and Li Xingsan did not say anything either. Soon, there was an awkward silence. After a while, Chu Yang spoke again. Eastern Maggot, your performance is over just like that? The corner of his mouth curled into a mocking smile. Look at how impassioned and fearless you are. Why don't you make the first move? Don't tell me I haven't humiliated you enough? Oh, I understand. He suddenly came to a realization and laughed. Eastern Maggot, you're afraid of the lightning tribulation. It's fine, I'll deal with you after the lightning tribulation ends. I guarantee that you'll die with a sense of rhythm. Humph! Li Xingsan coldly snorted. I've said it before. Anyone with a normal brain would not exchange their life for a dog's. Smart. At that moment, there was nothing else to say. Chu Yang really did not use the lightning tribulation to make a move. This caused the pupils of the 6 courtyard heads to shrink. Chapter 1149. After a while, the lightning tribulation finally disappeared. Chu Yang immediately smiled brightly at the heads of the 6 grade schools. I thought that once the lightning tribulation was over, you 6 old bastards would immediately slaughter this dog. This dog expresses my disappointment. Li Xingsan helped the heads of the 6 great schools to avoid the awkwardness. He sneered and said, "Wild dog, it's just killing a dog like you. There's no need for the seniors to dirty their hands." His attitude and tone made Chu Yang even angrier. He said angrily, "Eastern Maggot, you really know how to annoy people. However, I'll tell you a secret. Usually, people who think that they're the only smart person in the world and that everyone else is stupid are actually the biggest idiots in the world." He directly pointed at Li Xingsan and said, "That's right, I'm talking about you, Eastern Maggot." Ha! Li Xingsan laughed. "Wild dog, without the lightning tribulation, you're nothing. I've never seen a dog as stupid as you." It was a blatant sneer. Chu Yang didn't take it seriously and said contemptuously, "Eastern Maggot, I'll let you be happy and proud. Otherwise, it'll be boring when you cry." Then, he took out half of Beiqianxing's soul and used the divine devil twins. However, he changed it. Soon, a Beiqianxing appeared in front of Li Xingsan. It had flesh and blood, and its realm was not inferior to Beiqianxing's. Such a method was truly like creating something out of nothing. This caused the entire crowd to be extremely shocked. This method was definitely not inferior to Li Xingsan's creation ability. This was natural. The use of the Divine Devil Twins' direction change ability, which also contained the Divine Devil walking technique, turned Chu Yang's appearance into Beiqianxing's. There was also a mysterious soul method, which injected half of Beiqianxing's soul and replaced his soul. It could be said to be a work of the gods. Li Xingsan's subordinates almost froze their minds in a daze. Could it be that the wild dog also has a creation ability? Humph! Chu Yang looked at Li Xingsan's changed expression and snorted coldly in his heart. "Who do you think you are? Is the creation god art that great? It's nothing compared to you." He then said, "Eastern Maggot, I'll use the person you look down on the most to rub you against the ground. I think you'll be in a very good mood." 7 Kneels of the Starlord, landslide. Rumble. Under the astonished gazes of everyone present, Beiqianxing knelt down. All of a sudden, endless dazzling starlight burst out from behind him, and a boundless starry sky appeared, dotted with stars. Among them, a child's figure immediately appeared. Just like Beiqianxing, he also knelt down. The entire place was in an uproar. It can't be, right? Could it really be Beiqianxing's 7 Kneels of the Starlord? How could Eastern Wilderness 002 have such a supreme secret technique? The person who spoke trembled in disbelief. How did Eastern Wilderness 002 do it? First, it was Li Xingsan's creation ability. Now, it's Beiqianxing's supreme secret technique. How is this possible? Could it be that he knows everything and is omnipotent? The 7 Kneels of the Starlord is a top secret of the Star Academy. We didn't even know about it before. How could Wild Dog know about it? He even has it. Heavens, am I crazy? Or is this world crazy? Perhaps Eastern Wilderness 002 has just learned it. Perhaps it's just a form, but there's no essence. It's just a form. Not only the people from the East Continent, even the Academy Masters of the 6 great academies felt their hair stand on end. Their souls trembled as if they were cats that had suddenly encountered a mouse. If the wild dog had just learned it, it was already frightening enough. If it was just a form, but there wasn't any essence, it wouldn't be able to display its power. This was reasonable. They felt that the latter was possible. After all, the wild dog could deliberately tease them. As for the people from the East Continent, they didn't dare to call him Wild Dog. They couldn't care less now. Chapter 1150. Rumble. Endless thunder and lightning emerged from the void. Earthen flames sprang up as the great Tao blade of slaughter descended. It's really the 7 Kneels of the celestial monarch. It's not just a facade. Eastern Wilderness 002 actually grasped the 7 Kneels of the celestial monarch. Everyone from the Eastern continent was in an uproar. Their scalps were numb, and they felt a chill from head to toe. How did Eastern Wilderness 002 do it? Is he not human? How can this be? It's already shocking that he challenged the 6 great academies alone. It'll definitely cause an uproar and shake the world. But isn't this his limit? The heavens are jealous of geniuses. Where is the hatred of the heavens? How can it allow such a person to exist in this world? Almost everyone lost their composure. They cried out in alarm, and some were even trembling in fear. How can this be? How can the wild dog grasp the 7 Kneels of the celestial monarch? The most incredulous was still the dean of the Star Doe Academy. Today, he had suffered 10,000 points of damage and had been humiliated countless times. The shadow in his heart was boundless. The dean of the other 5 academies were completely dumbfounded. Everything had completely overturned their imaginations. Screech. While they were in shock, Li Xingsan was struck by lightning and burned by earthen flames. The great Tao wanted to destroy him, but he was different from the heavens and earth. He immediately reacted. The others didn't pay attention, but Chu Yang saw it clearly. He saw the primordial chaos appear in the depths of Li Xingsan's body. The power at the beginning of the world surged out and merged with the rolling spiritual energy. Instantly, the vermilion bird of the 4 divisions appeared and protected Li Xingsan. Crackle! Thunder struck the vermilion bird and the flesh exploded. There was a clear smell of blood that was no different from the real thing. The burning of earthen flames made the smell of burnt flesh even stronger, to the point where it could be clearly heard. A real vermilion bird. Li Xingsan had created a vermilion bird. Chu Yang was shocked beyond words. If this was the case, then Li Xingsan could even create a vermilion bird. Wouldn't that mean that he was invincible and possessed the methods of a saint? He immediately began to deduce frantically. After a while, he realized that this kind of reality was short-lived and could not be maintained for long. Once the power of creation disappeared, the vermilion bird would immediately collapse. It would not be able to exist in the human world for long. However, this was already shocking enough. Whether it's Bai Qinxing or Li Xingsan, they're both amazing. Chu Yang's heart trembled. He thought of Qianzi, who claimed to be born from heaven and earth in the Sky Academy. He was afraid that Qianzi was even more terrifying than these two. While he was shocked, the vermilion bird that Li Xingsan created was covered in wounds. However, it still managed to block the 1st Kneel of a star venerate. Everyone from the East Continent was shocked to the point of numbness. He had even created a true vermilion bird. Li Xingsan was simply heaven-defying. Eastern maggot, not bad. Li Xingsan's clapping woke the people of the East Continent from their stupor. But when they looked at Li Xingsan, their hearts were once again filled with shock. This person was even more outrageous and heaven-defying than Li Xingsan. Seventh kneel of a star venerate, sea withering. Seventh kneel of a star venerate, earth destroying. Seventh kneel of a star venerate, sky collapsing. Rumble. The void trembled like a rag. Baichengxing knelt 3 times in a row. 3 star venerate phantoms appeared, causing the space behind him to become incomparably bright. The starlight flowed like water and fell on the shocked faces. This was a battle between supreme geniuses. This was a shocking battle. In the past, the battles that everyone had witnessed were simply child's play. However, what was unbelievable was that Li Xingsan was only at the 6th level of the Soul Amalgamation Realm, while Eastern Wasteland 002 hadn't even reached the Soul Amalgamation Realm. However, both of them had displayed such earth-shattering methods. Chapter 1151. Screech. When the might of the 7 Neels of the Celestial Lord, the 3rd Neel, Withering Sea, was unleashed, an earth-shattering power descended. The vermilion bird, which was already covered in blood, let out a mournful cry and exploded. Li Xingsan was like a vast ocean. The essence of his body seemed to be seawater. The luster on his body disappeared, and he was about to dry up in the blink of an eye. What was even more frightening was that the ground beneath his feet was about to collapse. The void above his head was constantly cracking, and space-time cracks were as black as ink. They covered the void like a spider web, and it looked as if it was about to collapse. He was horrified and roared out 4 symbols: white tiger, azure dragon, roar. The roar of a dragon and a tiger was like the sound of the creation of the world. It resounded in every corner, causing everyone to feel as if they were witnessing the creation of the world. Li Xingsan was dormant in the deepest part of his body. The primordial chaotic power surged out like a flood, enveloping and submerging him. The appearance of the white tiger and the azure dragon were like yin and yang hugging each other. They formed a protective barrier and resisted the power that was about to dry up his body. Rumble. At this moment, the void completely collapsed, and a pitch-black hole appeared above his head. The ground under his feet silently disappeared at this moment, and the surrounding space was faintly about to crack open. The scene was extremely shocking. It was as if the end of the world had arrived, and the sky had collapsed. Everyone couldn't help but cry out in horror. My heavens have truly collapsed, and the earth has truly been destroyed. The 7 Neels of the Celestial Lord is actually so terrifying. How did Eastern Wilderness 002 resist it? Although it wasn't a true collapse, that space was indeed being destroyed. How can a mere spirit stage have such power? How can he use such a heaven-defying secret technique? According to the legends, all the demons from the outer world would be annihilated with just a half kneel. However, this sentence isn't enough to convey the terror within. The doomsday-like scene caused everyone in the eastern continent to be shocked by the terror of the 7 Neels of the Celestial Lord. I am in control of creation, seizing the void. The azure dragon is heaven, the white tiger is earth, the creation of heaven and earth. Li Xingsan faced this unprecedented terror and roared at the sky. He used his soul amalgamation realm ability to control the heavens and earth to control the void. He then used the power of creation to create a new world. The area around him became even more hazy and chaotic. A primordial aura of the world surged out like a wave, shocking everyone. If the heavens are destroyed, I will create a new heavens. If the earth is destroyed, I will create another. Li Xingsan forcefully blocked 3 of the 7 Neels of the Star Lord. The scene was shocking everyone's eyes, causing them to exclaim repeatedly. Creation divine ability is indeed unimaginable. As long as one can grasp the power of creation, which one of them is not a supreme figure? Perhaps one day, the all-creation child will really be able to split the heavens and earth and create his own world. Everyone was shocked. Even the Academy Master of the Sky Academy and the Sage Master couldn't help but exclaim, The 7 Neels of the Star Lord can destroy the heavens and earth, but this creation divine ability is not inferior to it. The Academy Masters of the Divine Firmament Academy and the Heavenly Sword Academy also echoed. Chapter 1152. The 6 great academies were equally famous, and each of them had their own ultimate technique. The Myriad Academy had the creation technique, the Star Academy had the 7 Neels of the Celestial Lords, the Sky Sword Academy had the sword techniques, the Divine Firmament Academy had the lightning techniques, the Sky Academy had the spatial techniques, and the Heavenly Demon Academy had the demonic technique. Even though there were differences in strength between their secret techniques, the difference was very small. Hence, the Myriad Academy's creation technique was definitely not inferior to the Star Academy's 7 Neels of the Celestial Lords. This meant that Li Xingsan was inferior to the wild dog. Chu Yang's eyes shone brightly. He also had the primal chaos and could deduce creation, but he did not obtain the technique. If I can obtain the secrets of creation and the 4 symbols visualization picture from Li Xingsan, it will save me a lot of effort. He instantly made up his mind to kill Li Xingsan, take his soul, obtain the secrets of creation, and seize the 4 symbols. If he obtained the supreme secret techniques of the 2 academies, he would be able to do whatever he wanted in the East Continent. Everything that he had said before would be just around the corner. 7 Neels of the Celestial Lords, Moonfall. 7 Neels of the Celestial Lords, Sunfall. 7 Neels of the Celestial Lords, Starfall. Beiqianxing knelt 3 times consecutively, unleashing the last 3 moves of the 7 Neels of the Celestial Lords. Rumble. The void trembled, and the black hole above Li Xingsan's head grew bigger and bigger. Many cracks in the void spread out endlessly. Suddenly, a bright light burst out from the black hole. A crescent moon fell down, followed by a sun, and then countless stars fell down. The sun and moon appeared, and the stars fell. It seemed as if the entire starry sky was about to collapse. The void was silently torn apart, and a spatial storm swept out. Under the endless light of the sun, moon, and stars there was a sea of light and endless light. The sky changed color, and Li Xingsan's expression also changed. If he was strong enough, he could open up the sky and the moon, turning the sun into the dark moon, and taking the stars to shape the starry sky. Unfortunately, he could not do it now. He roared repeatedly. The azure dragon holds the sun, the white tiger pounces on the moon, the black tortoise sets the sky, guarding the center, welcoming the stars. The azure dragon let out a long roar as it soared into the sky and caught the falling sun with its mouth. The white tiger rode the wind as it grabbed the crescent moon. The azure dragon held the sun while the white tiger held the moon. The 2 of them charged towards the falling stars. The black tortoise also appeared and stood in front of Li Xingsan to protect him. Rumble. The group of stars fell, colliding with the great sun and crescent moon. The void trembled, heaven and earth rumbled. Soon after, it was as if great suns were rapidly expanding and exploding one after another. Endless radiance erupted, dazzling heaven and earth, enveloping everything. In an instant, that place was no longer visible, and all senses were stripped away. Endless waves of energy swept over, causing the void to tremble like waves. Vast astral winds and shockwaves swept over, sweeping away everything. It was like a giant hand that wanted to flatten all corners and erase all obstacles. It was as if the world had lost its sound. The sound was so fierce that it caused many people in the eastern continent to temporarily lose their hearing. There were even many people who were sent flying. Fortunately, this was the 7-wheel demonic domain. It was empty and there was almost nothing. The vast amount of energy was completely released into the void. Otherwise, what kind of earth-shattering scene would that be? Everything would be destroyed and destroyed. After an unknown amount of time, everything finally calmed down, and the sound appeared once again. Is this really a battle between a soul fusion stage and a spirit stage? A voice of disbelief rang out. The attack was too terrifying. The scene of the sun, moon, and stars falling had appeared. Didn't this mean that when the Eastern Wilderness 002 truly matured, he could destroy the world, cause the sun and moon to lose their light, and destroy the starry sky? Of course, the focus of everyone's attention was naturally the result. Chapter 1153. Whoosh. Everyone's gazes turned to where Li Xingsan was. The space there had been completely restored, and there was only a bloody and mangled person. His entire body had been smashed into a pulp, and he was in an incomparably miserable state. It seemed that only his dim eyes were unharmed. Li Xingsan was not dead, but he had been defeated. He was seriously injured and on the verge of death. Maggot Dong, reality has proven that you are not as good as that maggot Baichengxing. This result must be very unbearable for you. Chu Yang's cold voice resounded. Then, he walked straight over, wanting to take Li Xingsan's life. However, with a whoosh, the Dean of the Myriad Court moved and blocked his path. Wild dog, you finally did something decent before you died. This kind of training won't last long. It's a good thing for him. The Dean of the Myriad Court's voice was like an undulating mountain, crushing over one after another. It was incomparably heavy, filled with endless coldness and murderous intent. When he was angry, it was as if his anger was about to burn everything. Suddenly, the void turned red like a piece of iron, and rolling heat waves swept out. Who dares to stop me from killing? Chu Yang did not stop walking. He sneered and said, "That old bastard from before couldn't, but you, old bastard, can? You're just here to embarrass yourself." Baichengxing once again performed the 7 kneels of the Star Lord, but with a bang, he exploded on the spot. Humph! The Dean of the Myriad Court thought that Chu Yang had some incredible means, but he could not help but sneer at this, but he did not say anything. This was because he felt a little uneasy and fearful. If Wild Dog did not have a trump card, he would not dare to be so arrogant. It was better to be careful. If Wild Dog did not have a trump card, he would be crushed to death in the end. "Old bastard, what are you sneering at?" Chu Yang directly scolded. "Your grandfather just wants to test the 7 kneels of the Star Lord. Who are you laughing at? Also, get out of here quickly, or it will be too late later." Boom! Death Chi surged out of the Myriad Sect's headmaster's body. He was on full alert. The rest of the academy heads stared at Chu Yang without blinking. It was time to see his trump card. The people from the East Continent also held their breaths and concentrated. Da-da-da. Chu Yang's footsteps became incomparably clear. He looked coldly at the headmaster of the Wanxiang institution. "Old bastard, if you want to stop me, then go ahead and stop one of us. I want to see if you have the guts to do so. Will you be as laughable as the other old bastard?" Shwa. While he was speaking, a demonic shadow flashed out of thin air and instantly entered Chu Yang's body. The demonic avatar had returned. Rumble. The lightning tribulation appeared once again, descending upon Chu Yang. In an instant, his entire body flickered with lightning. The lightning was incomparably dazzling, as though he was the thunder god walking in the mortal world. Lightning punishment! Lightning punishment again! Fuck! The Myriad Sect's headmaster's face turned black. He actually cursed out loud. It could be seen how flustered and exasperated he was. In his heart, he was cursing. The Wild Dog had just passed through the lightning tribulation and broke through to the 6th level of the spirit stage. How long had it been? He actually broke through again and attracted the lightning tribulation. This was truly unheard of. The people from the East Continent who were watching from afar. The 5 academy heads who were completely focused and widened their eyes also wanted to curse. They were originally waiting to see the Wild Dog's trump card. But in the end, this wild dog was immoral and immoral. In the end, he brought out a lightning tribulation that caught them off guard. They already knew about the lightning tribulation, so there was no need to repeat it. Ha ha. Chapter 1154. I can't see the ancients in the past, nor can I see the successors in the future. Thinking about the long life of heaven and earth, I shed tears alone. Chu Yang was also amused and began to tease them. That's right, I'm so unprecedented, and I'm so talented. I can break through whenever I want, and the lightning tribulation will come whenever I want. If you're so capable, you can envy me to death. Su Yiling and Feng Polong were instantly speechless. They could only be jealous. It was impossible for them to break through so quickly. He couldn't help but pat his head in annoyance. Then, he said with a beaming smile, I'm sorry. I had forgotten my special skill earlier. So, I've offended you. But I've offended you because of that. Now, I've picked it up again. So, old man, please get lost. In the end, he even said narcissistically, I'm indeed a model of respecting the old and loving the young. I'm a role model for all young people. Yes, that's it. I'm indeed full of universal love. What the hell was that about respecting the old and loving the young? Role model my ass. Universal love your sister. Instantly, many people ground their teeth and wanted to tear Chu Yang apart. They realized that the wild dog from before was much cuter than the wild dog now. Swish. The dean of the Wanxiang court was really worried that he would die from anger. Without saying anything, he turned around and grabbed Li Xingsan to leave. Chu Yang was anxious and stomped his feet. I say, old man with a black face, are you in a hurry to go home and get rid of the dust? I can forgive you, but don't snatch the trash from me. It's the duty of us young people to clean up the trash and make the world shine. Go home and get rid of the dust. The dean of the Wanxiang court was flying at high speed. Hearing this, his vision darkened and he staggered, almost falling to the ground. At this moment, Chu Yang moved. He teleported and suddenly appeared in front of the dean of the Wanxiang court. With a smack, he directly smashed Li Xingsan's head. Then, he collected his soul and teleported away again. Pulling chestnuts out of the fire, life and death were on the line. It was extremely thrilling and could be said to be dancing on the fingertips of the Grim Reaper. It happened in the blink of an eye. Chu Yang had succeeded. After all, who would have thought of this? The dean of the Wanxiang court stood there in a daze as he stared at Li Xingsan's corpse. There was only one word in his mind: teleportation. At this moment, everyone was so shocked that it was as if a door had been opened and they had seen a brand new world. Their horizons had been broadened. Teleport. Wild Dog could actually teleport. He was only at the spirit stage, but he could already teleport. Was there any justice left in this world? Hee hee, you old man with a black face, you can go home and collect dust. As a young man who respects the old and cherishes the young, I have already swept away the trash. Chu Yang's face was full of smiles. He continued, Old man with a black face, although you have polluted many people's hearts, you can rest assured that you will not pollute the outside world. The outside world must be clean, pure, and beautiful. The dean of the Wanxiang court was so angry that white smoke was coming out of his mouth and nose. His body was trembling like a sieve, and he was about to explode. At this moment, everyone heard Chu Yang say in surprise, Old man with a black face, you're so amazing. You can even breathe white smoke from your nose. Are you a juggler? Many people from the East Continent suddenly discovered another side of the Eastern Wilderness 002. His poisonous tongue was obviously much more amazing than his talent. Just look at how angry the dean of the Wanxiang court was with just a few words. Chu Yang faced the people from the East Continent and opened his arms. Trash, hurry up and come down. I'm an expert in dealing with trash. You're the trash. Your entire body is trash. At this moment, even if Su Eling didn't have much hatred for the eastern wilderness, he couldn't help but curse in his heart. Brother Jean, please calm down. Seeing that the dean of the Wanxiang court was out of control, the sage master of the Sky Court flashed and held him down. Don't fall into his trap. Seeing this, Chu Yang suddenly sneered in his heart. Sage master, you old bastard. But it's good that you advised me. If you didn't, I'd be in danger. He should have a great connection with the Seven Wheels demon realm. As soon as the sage master spoke again, Chu Yang's eyelids twitched. He didn't dare to hesitate at once. Trash, I'll go get the tools to deal with trash. You stay here obediently for the time being. Uncle, I'll come back to deal with you later. Swish. He teleported again, but the distance was still a little short. As soon as he appeared, the dean of the Six Courts found that he was going in the direction of the demonic bell. Oh no, he's going to seize the demonic bell. If he seizes the demonic bell, we'll all die here. Absolutely not. He'll succeed. The dean of the Six Courts were horrified and immediately moved. Especially the sage master, who suddenly flashed and appeared beside the demonic bell. Chu Yang was much worse than the old bastard in terms of the spacetime technique. Chu Yang narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, Grandpa burrowing, you burrowing so fast. Are you a mouse? Swish. Then he flashed and disappeared in an instant. After that, when he appeared again, he had already abandoned the demonic bell and fled outside. Chapter 1155. The thunder tribulation was the best coordinate, and the sound of thunder was the best information transmission. As soon as Chu Yang escaped, the 6 great academies and the people of the East Continent immediately captured his movements. The hardcore people immediately clamored loudly. Rumble! Among the 6 great academies, except for the Sage Master who controlled the spacetime technique, the other 5 were like giant beasts galloping in the void. The air exploded, and the void was almost torn apart. Their speed was extremely fast. They instantly cut off Chu Yang's path. Chu Yang was flying at an extremely fast speed. He was like an eagle. He suddenly felt as if a mountain as high as the sky had suddenly appeared in front of him. A vigorous aura was pressing down on him. It was as if 6 big mountains were pressing down on his heart. He almost couldn't breathe for a moment. A tiger that had eaten its fill was like a cat, but a hungry tiger that had awakened to eat people was terrifying. The 6 great academies' academy masters were all enraged by Chu Yang. At this time, the aura they emitted was really incomparably terrifying, completely different from before. Chu Yang now felt that he was an ant facing 6 mountains. 6 elders, you went back home to pluck the dust. Is the speed of refining very fast? No wonder you guys pluck the dust. Even your sons don't know. The stronger the 6 old bastards were, the more respected their positions were. Chu Yang's sharp teeth were now more lethal. And this seemed to be the legend that those who have nothing to lose were not afraid of wearing shoes. No, he had shoes, sandals. Thunder's sandals were too good, allowing him to be as sloppy as he wanted and show off his martial prowess. Although the 6 old bastards had cut off the path of the gigolo, the handsome Chu Yang, they did not dare to get too close. Chu Yang snickered in his heart. At that moment, he let out a cry, and then his poetic spirit burst. The great river flows east, the waves wash away all the heroes of ancient times. In the east of the old fort, people say, the little white dragon in the eastern wilderness waves, the eastern wilderness 002, majestic and heroic, with a feather fan and a silk scarf, chatting and laughing, the heroes of the East Continent are all my concubines. After a trip to the 7 demonic realms, the East Continent should be jealous of me, handsome and live well. Life is like a dream, a venerable one returns to the river moon. So fucking talented. Thump, thump. Many of the densely packed people in the eastern continent who were chasing after Chu Yang suddenly heard such a good poem. Many of them fell from the sky like birds with broken wings. Obviously, they were greatly shocked by Chu Yang's talent in poetry. After they fell to the ground, they raised their heads to look at Chu Yang, who was not far away, as if they were looking at some unique humanoid creature. When Feng Polong heard this, the corner of his mouth twitched. What a good summary! However, he was truly convinced. Under the encirclement and suppression of the 6 great academies' headmasters, he was afraid that even he could not be as talented as Chu Yang, who was able to display such talent in poetry to his heart's content. Rumor has it that those who are barefoot are not afraid of those who are wearing shoes. Chu Yang glanced at the 6 old bastards. You seem to be wearing shoes, but why aren't you afraid of me? This doesn't make sense. He waved his hand at the people chasing after him and rubbed his chin. He thought for a while and said seriously, "You people who don't wear shoes, don't come and disturb the pondering of an ancient hero. Otherwise, you will all be sinners." The headmasters of the 6 great academies looked at Chu Yang, who was hovering in the air, and most of their faces darkened. "Wild dog, you are the one who is not afraid of wearing shoes." The 6 of them were so revered, but today they actually joined forces to deal with a junior. If word got out, it would be a joke. In addition, what was even more depressing was that the Thunder Tribulation had not ended, so they did not dare to attack Wild Dog. The people chasing behind him were further away, but they could only keep up with Chu Yang from afar. Chapter 1156. Pfft. Chu Yang suddenly poked them angrily. "I've already told you that you're not wearing shoes. Don't come and disturb the thinking of the legendary figures." Great, now something big has happened. There has been a huge deviation in the progress of the East Continent. I'm afraid there will be a catastrophe. You're all guilty. You're all sinners. His righteous indignation stunned many people. For a short period of time, they really treated Wild Dog as a legendary figure and felt that they were guilty. As a handsome young male warrior of the eastern wilderness, I represent the moon and destroy you. A handsome young male warrior of the eastern wilderness, and he even represented the moon. The people of the East Continent were thunderstruck. Soon, they were struck by lightning. With a swoosh, Chu Yang turned around and teleported away, causing everyone to lose sight of him. Then, they suddenly heard his voice. It seemed to be very close. "Brother, the handsome young male warrior of the eastern wilderness is right here. Where are you looking?" A Transcendence Realm expert felt someone pat his shoulder from behind. He turned around abruptly. His face instantly turned pale and he trembled nonstop. His entire person was in a mess. Especially when he heard the rumbling thunder, his mind was filled with a roar, lightning tribulation. Wild Dog had drawn him into the lightning tribulation. His vision turned black and he almost fainted. Wild Dog rumble. Just as he roared, a bolt of lightning tribulation descended. It struck him so hard that his eyes rolled back and smoke rose from his head. Then, he fell straight to the ground. Ah! Rumble! The lightning punishment continued to splash down, and miserable shrieks rose and fell one after another. That area turned into a world of lightning, and everyone was caught in the lightning tribulation. They were struck by lightning and cried for their parents, and wailed miserably. Chu Yang listened to the rumbling thunder and looked at the vast expanse of white lightning. He was once again inspired to write poetry. The 9 prefectures rely on wind and thunder. 10,000 horses are silent. I advise Heaven Duke to be full of vigor and not stick to one type of person. Everyone, congratulations to all of you for being chosen by Heaven. Then, he exclaimed, Heaven Duke chooses talents, what a beautiful scene, it's really as beautiful as a painting. You can watch it for 3 days and 3 nights without hiding, it's so beautiful. Wicked, truly wicked. Killing someone just like that, and still being poetic and pretending to be cultured. Those who weren't involved in the lightning tribulation all broke out in cold sweat when they saw this scene. They were secretly relieved that they weren't destroyed by the beautiful young male warrior of the eastern wilderness on behalf of the moon. Such a way of dying was too humiliating. At least for now, they didn't think there was any other way of dying that was worse than this. Hee, eastern maggots, my uncle has the virtue of not killing you pitiful worms who don't wear shoes. You actually dare to recklessly chase after me. It's true that even the king of hell can't save a dying ghost. Waha! Wang Bushong, who was on Chu Yang's back, suddenly laughed strangely at this time. If someone familiar with parrots was present, they would immediately recognize that this was the strange laughter of a parrot, and definitely not Wang Bushong's mocking laughter. What he said seemed to be true. Those who weren't involved in the lightning tribulation were speechless again. Rumble. After a while, the last rumble of rolling thunder sounded, and the lightning tribulation ended with this long sound. In an instant, countless people in the East Continent had a dim light in their eyes. Like evil wolves, they stared at Chu Yang. Waha! Chu Yang was already prepared. Before the heads of the 6 great academies made a move, he imitated the parrot and laughed strangely. The thunder tribulation sandals are gone. Everyone here, if any of you dare to touch them, I, the beautiful young male warrior of the eastern wilderness, will destroy you on behalf of the moon. The damned beautiful young male warrior of the eastern wilderness appeared again. Many people were grinding their teeth, but no one dared to act rashly. This so-called beautiful young male warrior of the eastern wilderness was too strange, and no one could see through his trump card. If the sky fell, the tall man would hold it up. If anyone were to make a move, it would be the 6 great academies who made the first move. Chapter 1157. The scene suddenly quieted down. Although many people were ready to make a move, they restrained themselves, not wanting to die in vain. If the heads of the 6 great academies were not afraid of Chu Yang's trump card, they would have taken action long ago. But there were too many suspicious points and strange things, especially when Chu Yang had just escaped. Wild Dog was clearly facing the lightning tribulation. How could he escape with such a big commotion? He would be discovered immediately if he escaped, but why would he do such a useless thing? Everyone feared the lightning tribulation like a snake or a scorpion, but Wild Dog enjoyed it. They clearly discovered that there was something in Wild Dog's body that was endlessly devouring the lightning tribulation. What was it that allowed it to devour the lightning tribulation so fearlessly? The level of the lightning tribulation was originally 2 realms higher than Wild Dog, but now it was only 1 realm higher than Wild Dog's. This was also a very suspicious point. At least it showed that Wild Dog's lightning tribulation did not only target the increase of realms. The aura that the Wild Dog exuded made the 6 of them very alarmed. That aura made the deepest part of their souls feel a faint sense of fear. Most importantly, if it was as they guessed, that Wild Dog was indeed related to the 7 Wheels demonic realm, then it was too terrifying. This was definitely not without basis. Wild Dog was too compatible with the space of the 7 Wheels demonic realm. The 7 Wheels demonic realm was like his domain. Especially when they were close to Wild Dog, the 6 of them clearly felt that the space of the 7 Wheels demonic realm was rejecting them. In addition, Wild Dog's strange laughter just now was also very strange. That kind of strange laughter did not match the little Wild Dog at all. All these suspicious points made the heads of the 6 great academies bewildered. But Wild Dog might have a great connection with the 7 Wheels demonic realm. Just this point alone made them feel incomparably fearful. The 7 Wheels demonic realm was the corpse of a supreme demon venerable. When it died and fell, it could wipe out the ancient demon sect in the East Continent. It was unimaginably terrifying. Chu Yang could clearly feel that he was being observed like a fish in a fish tank. If it weren't for the fact that he had the god-demon martial spirit and the 7 essences of the 7 essences of the 7 essences, which could hide everything, he would have long stripped them naked and let the 6 old bastards see everything clearly. He was now stalling for time so that he could carry out his plan. During this process, he was also learning Li Shengsan's creation ability. To be exact, it was the Creation Heart Sutra from the Myriad Court. The reason why Li Shengsan had mastered the Creation Divine ability was because he had comprehended the Creation Heart Sutra. Bang! Chu Yang suddenly broke the silence. He pointed at Feng Polong and said, "That ugly young man from the East Continent, do you dare to fight with my handsome young man from the East Continent? I'll give you a chance, but I promise I won't make you feel inferior and die." Feng Polong felt as if he was struck by lightning, and was struck by lightning. Was he ugly? How could he not lie through his teeth? If they were to fight, it would be a battle between the handsome young man from the East Continent and the handsome young man from the Eastern Wilderness. He turned his face away. This immoral thing had no morals and integrity. He was just a bitch who spoke too much. Bang, beautiful young warrior from the East Continent, do you dare to fight with me for 300 rounds? I'll be on top while you're below. Let's fight until the heavens and the earth turn upside down. Shameless bastard! Su Yi's cold face heated up. Then, she ground her teeth. If she was pure and innocent, she would become a joke, and become a bitch if she agreed to fight 300 rounds. You maggots from the East, if any of you dare to crawl out of the cesspool, fight with me. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.